Chapter 1981 Wanlong Hall admits to counseling. Open black lens bracket full order close black lens bracket. The 5 perfect controllers of Wanlong Temple came to the Yangon Forbidden Area, and they were shocked when they saw the master of the Tyrannosaur fighting with a half-step perfect controller of the extreme creation realm. They didn't immediately step forward to help. After all, any half-step perfect controller of the extreme creation is not ordinary. When they don't understand the situation, they naturally dare not make a move rashly. After all, although the Wanlong Palace is not weak, it is not worth mentioning in the entire Eternal Ruins. If it offends the top powers, the Wanlong Palace may be destroyed. However, they still spied the past time and space, and learned about the time and space of the Yongyan Forbidden Area, and only then did they know what happened. It turned out to be a material of creation. The 5 perfect controllers were astonished. The creation of extremely material, what a precious treasure. Basically these resources are controlled by those top powers, and it is impossible for a power like Wanlong Hall to turn. However, what made them extremely angry was that the Tyrannosaurus Lord was so selfish that he discovered the creation of extreme substances, and did not tell them, but secretly let his son, the master of the flying dragon, to secretly collect these extreme creation substances. Mistakes. If the Tyrannosaurus Lord told the 5 of them, there would be no doubts about the 6 perfect controllers of them, and they went directly into the depths of the Yongyan Forbidden Area. Wouldn't it be possible to easily take away these polar creation substances? In that case, nothing like this would happen. You 5 help me. The Tyrannosaurus Lord said quickly. If his will clone is not here, but in an incomparably distant place, Yi Tian's will clone would not have succeeded. Now, he just wants to snatch the extreme material on Yi Tian. If he can kill Yi Tian, then kill him. The 5 perfect controllers of Wanlong Temple surrounded Yi Tian. One of the perfect controllers said, "My friend, as long as you hand over those extremely created substances, our Wanlong Palace will not make it difficult for you." Their 5 perfect controllers only want to create extreme material and do not want to offend Yi Tian. After all, they didn't want to kill Yi Tian. What if I don't hand over the creation material? You dare to use my master as cannon fodder, and the creation of the ultimate material will be regarded as compensation. 1. Yi Tian said coldly, "Your master." The 5 perfect controllers frowned, not knowing who Yi Tian was talking about. However, since Yi Tian is unwilling to hand over the creation material, then they will not let Yi Tian leave. Just when these 5 perfect controllers were about to take action, Yi Tian took out his own perfect treasure, the blood blade knife. With Yi Tian's cultivation of creating a half-step perfect controller of the extreme realm, it is enough to completely control the blood blade sword, a low-level perfect treasure. And among some forces, even the perfect controller does not necessarily possess the perfect treasure. For example, the Wanlong Palace has only one perfect treasure, and it is not an attacking perfect treasure, but an auxiliary perfect treasure, so it cannot enhance their strength. When Yi Tian took out the low-level perfect blood blade sword, he used the extremely perfect control technique of 10,000 blades to break through the defense of the Tyrannosaurus Lord with one strike, and penetrated directly through his body. Under this blow, the Tyrannosaurus Lord was not lightly injured. Perfect treasure. The Tyrannosaurus Lord and their expressions changed. They did not expect that Yi Tian actually has a perfect treasure, and it is very suitable for Yi Tian, enough to make Yi Tian's strength skyrocket, but they don't have such a perfect treasure. Lord of the Tyrannosaurus, forget it. Another perfect controller said, "We can't kill him, and we can't stop him from leaving. If we really want to keep fighting and killing, we are the ones who suffer in the end. At the very least, there must be some extremist substances left behind." The Tyrannosaurus Lord gritted his teeth. "Ha ha ha, there seems to be a little bit of creation in the depths of the Yangon Forbidden Area. I didn't pick it up, you go find it yourself." Having said that, Yi Tian's cloned body and will clone are about to leave. The Tyrannosaurus Lord hesitated for a moment, but still did not pursue it. The other 5 perfect controllers searched for the golden flower to create extreme substances in the depths of the Yongyan Forbidden Area, and finally found some, but the number was too small. Subsequently, the 6 perfect controllers of Wanlong Temple went to inquire about Yi Tian's origin, and Yi Tian's reputation in the Eternal Ruins was not small, so he quickly inquired about it. That guy turned out to be the half-step perfect controller of the Wudao Tower. The Tyrannosaurus Lord's pupils shrank, a little shocked. That is the Wudao Pagoda, one of the 9 most powerful forces in the ruins of eternity. Just dispatching a strong person can destroy the Wanlong Palace, and from the inquiries, Yi Tian joined Wudao Pagoda not long ago. He has been promoted all the way from a 10-realm level controller to a half-step perfect controller of the realm of creation. Lord of the Tyrannosaurus, the master of the flying dragon will die if he dies. Anyway, you have more than one offspring. The big deal is to cultivate another one. Moreover, this time, you are too greedy. If you tell us, there will be no this time it happened. Forget it, it's useless to say more, so as not to affect our relationship. In short, there are still some things left in this time, so let's all share it. Master of Tyrannosaurus, don't think about revenge on others. Yi Tian, the endless controller of the Wu Dao Pagoda, is too monstrous, and his future achievements are not comparable to us. If you really offend him, you are at risk of falling. A perfect master persuaded the Tyrannosaurus master. And the Tyrannosaurus lord nodded slightly. I know, let this matter pass. Besides, I am greedy this time, I'm sorry everyone. The 5 perfect controllers didn't blame the Tyrannosaurus lord too much, their dissatisfaction was certain, but the Tyrannosaurus lord suffered a lot, so they couldn't say anything. Moreover, if they are really faced with this situation, maybe they will choose to be greedy for all the creations like the Lord of Tyrannosaurus Rex. Outside the tower, Yi Tian brought Shi Xingzhu here. Master, what are your plans next? Yi Tian released the 10 Elements ancestor from the void ball de Zhao and immediately asked a few. Shi Xingzhu sighed. Yi Tian, I will definitely not be able to go back to the Wanlong Temple, and I joined the Wanlong Temple, and leaving now must be a traitor, and the general forces will not want me. 1 inch. Well, Master, I will arrange for you to enter some organizational forces under the Wu Dao Pagoda, and the treatment will not be worse than the Wanlong Palace. Yi Tian said. Of course it's the best. The 10 Elements ancestor rejoiced. Afterwards, Yi Tian arranged a half-step perfect controller as a half-step perfect controller of his own creation. This was naturally a very simple matter, and no one would say anything. Soon, Shi Xingzhu was arranged. Then, Yi Tian returned to the Wu Dao Pagoda, took out the extreme creation materials, and prepared to use these extreme creation substances and some existing resources to attack the second extreme creation chain. Once he breaks the second extreme chain, his strength will definitely be even stronger. Chapter 1982. Something happened to the Sea of Origin. There are no Taoist towers, and practice time and space. Yi Tian sat cross-legged, and there were golden flowers all around. These golden flowers were all things of creation, in fact, the real name was golden flowers of creation. Yi Tian's body of creation absorbs the supreme creation material of these supreme creation golden flowers, although the supreme creation substance contained in each supreme creation golden flower is not a lot, but it is better than the quantity. In addition, Yi Tian himself is not very far away from breaking the second pole creation chain, so after absorbing a lot of golden flowers and other resources, the second pole creation chain finally appeared. Boom! The golden pole making chain appeared in the root of the body of control, containing terrifying power, and the difficulty of breaking it was even more difficult than the first pole making chain. However, Yi Tian is very confident. Soon, the dense golden flowers around the building were all absorbed, and many resources were all used. For this breakthrough, Yi Tian can be said to have exhausted all of his resources, just to impact the second one. Extreme chain. As time passed, the second pole-making chain began to crack, and the speed of resource consumption was also extremely fast. Long years have passed. Finally, on this day, before all the resources were almost exhausted, Yi Tian finally completely broke the second chain of extreme creation. Immediately, the second extreme creation chain turned into an incomparably pure creation source and merged into Yi Tian's creation body. Yi Tian's real power was skyrocketing. After a long time, Yi Tian's promotion officially ended. The strength has improved a lot. If you fight against the Tyrannosaurus Lord with your current strength, you can easily suppress him, and you don't even need to use the perfect treasure. Yi Tian thought to himself. Of course, he is still not very powerful among the half-step perfect controllers of the creation of the extreme realm, and it can only be said that the Tyrannosaurus Lord and the others are too weak. In the days to come, Yi Tian will copy more perfect level ancestral inscriptions while cultivating the mastery of creating perfection. After all, he has only mastered a perfectionist skill now. It can definitely improve a lot. But for Yi Tian, it is not difficult to create more perfect skills, and it doesn't take much time. So, over the years, Yi Tian has created many perfect control techniques, such as creating the extreme battle body, creating the extreme momentary shadow, creating the extreme shadow thorn, creating the extreme fog body, and creating the extreme swallowing domain. Before he knew it, Yi Tian had practiced in seclusion for more than 300,000 years of eternity. At this time, Yi Tian's strength skyrocketed, much stronger than before. However, he still only broke 2 pole creation chains, and there is still some CJFJ gap between breaking the 3rd pole creation chain, mainly due to the lack of pole creation materials, otherwise he would not have broken the 3rd pole creation chain. However, the creation of extreme substances is too rare. Even if he is the perfect half-step master of the creation of extremes, there is no way to obtain too many extreme substances. Only in terms of combat power, I am not weaker than those half-step perfect masters who have broken the 3 extreme creation chains, and even the combat power is much higher. After all, they don't have as many perfect skills as me. Yi Tian muttered. He is also very clear that if there is not much chance, in the next very long years, his strength will increase very slowly, and this is something that can't be helped. For example, the half-step perfect controllers of the Wudao Pagoda have become the half-step perfect controllers of the extreme creation realm for countless years, and they still choose to stay in the half-step perfect controllers of the extreme creation realm, but the rate of strength improvement is too slow. For the half-step perfect controller of the creation of the extreme state, the years of practice are in units of millions of eternity years, and how long has Yi Tian practiced? For other half-step perfect controllers of the extreme creation, it is just a nap time. The Sea of Origin. Since Xixing ancestor left here and went to the Eternal Ruins, there has been more competition in the Sea of Origin, because Xixing ancestor and the others have left, which means that some resources have been vacated. Before, many incomparably precious resources were controlled by Xixing ancestor and the half-step perfect controllers. Now that they have left, they have not even left behind their clones, so many resources are vacated. No one dared to compete for the resources left by Xixing ancestor, but the resources left by Jia ancestor and primitive old ancestor were robbed of a lot. Of course, on the whole, the changes in the Sea of Origin realm have not changed much. However, this day, there are many powerful Jia creatures in the Jia area around the Source Realm Sea. Originally, the Jia creatures around the original Source Realm Sea were very weak, and almost did not even reach the Eternal Controller, so it is not worth mentioning. But now, all these newly emerging realm creatures are eternal controllers, and some even reach the level of 7 or 8 realm controllers. At the beginning, the powerhouses in the source realm didn't pay much attention, and some 9 realm level controllers took action and slaughtered these realm edge creatures. But then, some Jia creatures that were comparable to the 10th realm controller level appeared, which immediately attracted the attention of the 10th realm controller. Certainly, they still didn't realize the seriousness of the matter, but with the occurrence of one thing, the entire Sea of Origin was completely shocked. A 10 realm level controller has fallen. You must know that there are not many 10 level controllers in the Source Realm Sea, and now the number of 10 level controllers has decreased suddenly after the departure of the Black Rotten controllers and the original controllers. The remaining dozens of 10 realm level controllers are not powerful, and the fall of a 10 realm level controller is an extremely sensational event. The Source World Sea, somewhere in the void. One after another, the masters of the 10 realms gathered here, including the master of the ancient demon, the master of the snow girl, the master of Jin Yu, and many other masters of the 10 realms. At this time, Jin Yu's controller, the first sharpshooter of the Origin Realm Sea, said, "Now the Origin Realm Sea is in trouble. I have spied dozens of realm creatures that are comparable to the 10 realm level controllers, and the realm creatures the number is still increasing, and it is still unclear how many creatures from the boundary of the world will appear. If the great beings are still there, these creatures from the boundary of the world are not to be afraid of, but now they have all gone to the market of eternity, the Sea of Origin. I'm afraid it will be difficult to resist them. Or hide in the Sea of Origin," a 10 realm level controller suggested. No, the ancient demon controller shook his head. As long as those creatures do not exceed the 10 level controller level, they can still enter the Sea of Origin, so they cannot be allowed in, otherwise it will be more difficult to deal with. 1. This time, we must combine the power of the entire Source Realm Sea to clean up these realm edge creatures, and we can't let them continue to gather, otherwise when their number increases again, once all of them come over, it will be too hard to stop. The Snow Maiden controller suggested. Then let's do it, everyone's will clone will be shot at the first time. Fortunately, these realm creatures do not have will clones, so we still have an advantage in number. Remember, everyone must work together this time, otherwise we will lose the original Source Realm Sea. We have no place to live. Jin Yu controller said. That's natural. The other 10 realms level controllers nodded. Chapter 1983. In a state of despair, please Yi Tian to take action. Open black lens bracket request full order close black lens bracket. The origin is overseas. A large number of eternal controllers have come here, even the weak eternal controllers can take action. They only need to pay to clean up the weaker creatures of the world, and those powerful creatures of the world do not need them. Soon, the masters of the 10 realms, including the ancient demon controller and the snow girl controller, have all come here. I saw that Jin Yu's controller took out his bow and arrow, aimed at a Jia creature comparable to the 9 realms level controller, and immediately shot an arrow. Puff! This arrow penetrated time and space, locked the opponent, made the opponent unable to escape, and directly penetrated its body. Then, the creature from the boundary of the world died directly. Not only that, the arrow exploded directly, annihilating the surrounding time and space, and many creatures from the boundary of the world fell one by one. It can be said that this arrow killed about a dozen realm creatures that were comparable to the level of the 9 realms level controllers. The arrow of Jin Yu's controller is quite good, and the shooting distance is extremely long. If we were to do it, we would not be able to do it. Shui female controller said. However, many 10 realm level controllers did not have a relaxed look. They knew very well that killing more 9 realms level controllers would be meaningless, and they could only be regarded as high-level cannon fodder. At this moment, an incomparably terrifying realm creature appeared, one after another comparable to the 10 realm level controllers. Boom! These realm creatures, comparable to the 10 realm level controllers, were killed, and the dense waves of creatures drowned this area. Go ahead. The will clones of many 10 realms level controllers have taken action one after another, and they are fighting against these realm creatures that are comparable to 10 realms level controllers. In a blink of an eye, this area turned into a battlefield, and countless creatures from the world and countless eternal controllers fought. Every moment, there are many creatures from the world, but there are also many eternal masters. After a period of time, the will clone of the 10th world level controller finally fell, but he also fought and killed the world creatures that were comparable to the 10th level controller level. Moreover, there are many ways for a 10 realm level controller, so if you want to kill a 10 realm level controller's will clone, at least a few of those realm level creatures must fall. Time passed slowly, and more creatures from the realm of the world that were comparable to the 10 realm level controllers fell, and the victorious Libra leaned towards the source realm sea. What they don't know, however, is that this is just the beginning. This day, in the depths of the world, there is a powerful creature that is comparable to the master of the 10 world level. It's over, there are a lot of powerful creatures comparable to us. The ancient demon controller frowned. The other 10 realms level controllers are extremely frightened, how can they fight? Retreat into the Sea of Origin. Jin Yu's controller said helplessly. The other 10 level controllers also feel that this is the only way to go. After all, they have lost a lot of willpower clones and their combat power has dropped significantly. The number of powerful creatures comparable to them has already exceeded 100, and it is still increasing. Ghosts know how many a powerful creature comparable to a 10-level controller. If they do not retreat into the Sea of Origin, they are afraid that they will all fall. Of course, retreating into the Sea of Origin is the only way out of nowhere. These powerful creatures will definitely enter the Sea of Origin, but fighting in the Sea of Origin has at least a local advantage. Immediately, countless eternal controllers retreated into the Sea of Origin. But at this moment, something that made the 10 realm level controllers feared happened. Boom! An incomparably terrifying giant snake appeared, occupying an area, and its aura far surpassed that of the 10 realm level controllers, who were like ants in front of them. The world of the world is comparable to the half-step perfect controller. The ancient demon controller trembled. Moreover, he felt that the strength of this giant snake was probably much stronger than that of his master, the 10 elements ancestor. That's a creature comparable to a half-step perfect controller. God, how can you resist it? Jin Yu's controller was trembling all over, not knowing what to do. If the 10 elements ancestors and the primitive old ancestors were still there, they would definitely handle it, but now they can't fight against this giant snake by relying only on them, the 10 realms level masters. For a while, they were desperate. However, even more despair is yet to come. Another incomparably terrifying creature appeared. It was an astonishing golden bird. It stretched its wings and covered a lot of time and space. The terrifying aura seemed to envelope the entire Sea of Origin. It was even more terrifying than the giant snake just now. The Snow Maiden controller said in despair, "Master," before he left, he also briefly told us about the half-step perfect controller. It is said that in the ruins of eternity, the half-step perfect controller is divided into ordinary half-step perfect controller and top half-step controller. The perfect controller and the peak half-step perfect controller, and the strength of this golden bird has definitely reached the top half-step perfect controller, and even the strength of the giant snake just now is estimated to be very close to the peak half-step perfect controller. Bye. What should we do? Otherwise we will lose the original sea of source and escape directly, and escape into some treasures in the depths of the world. Some treasures prohibit the entry of half-step perfect controllers, and even a large number of 10-level controllers can enter there. It is also easy to get lost, and entering there may save your life. A 10-level controller said. At this time, the ancient demon controller smiled bitterly and said, "There is no hope, you will know by carefully sensing the surroundings of the Sea of Origin." Soon, they sensed their surroundings, and in the time and space around the Sea of Origin, a terrifying creature that was comparable to a half-step perfect controller appeared. Obviously, they surrounded the Source Realm Sea. Moreover, the dense number of creatures from the boundary of the world have emerged here. This is to destroy the original sea in one fell swoop. Everyone, what else can I do? Jin Yu controller asked. The Snow Maiden controller sighed at this moment. Perhaps my junior brother Yi Tian has a solution. The endless controller Yi Tian. Jin Yu's controller wondered, didn't he go to the eternal ruins? The Snow Girl controller said, my little junior brother has a body left in the original Sea of Origin. As for the reason, I can't tell you. The little junior brother has been in retreat and practice. He has been to the eternal ruins for so long, maybe there is method. 0. The ancient demon controller said, my little junior brother is very powerful, almost invincible in the Sea of Origin. We all retreat into the Sea of Origin, and the half-step perfect controller cannot enter. These are comparable to half-step perfect control. The powerful creatures of the masters will definitely not be able to get in. As long as my junior brother kills these 10 realm level controller creatures, then our source realm sea is still safe, but we will not be able to go out in the future, and once we go out, we will be killed. Let's get over the immediate crisis first. Jin Yu controller said. Immediately, an incarnation of the Snow Maiden controller came to the human race territory and asked to see Yi Tian. Little junior brother, there is a big crisis in the Sea of Origin, and I also ask junior brother to help. The Snow Maiden controller asks for advice. Come in. Yi Tian said. The Snow Maiden controller saw Yi Tian and quickly explained the situation. Yi Tian said lightly, I already know the situation, but if you want to solve the trouble, it is not enough to rely on the cultivation of the 10 realm level controllers. Those creatures of the half-step perfect controller level can join forces as long as they reach a certain number. Against the origin of the Source Realm Sea, they still have a way to rush into the Source Realm Sea, so I am preparing to attack the half-step perfect controller. Is it enough time? The Snow Maiden controller asked. Of course it's too late, I've already stepped into the half-step perfect controller, just suppressing my cultivation. After all, once I break through, I won't be easy to enter the Sea of Origin. But now that there is trouble in the Sea of Origin, I don't have to. Suppressed, Yi Tian said. Let's go. Go overseas to the Origin realm. The battlefield still has to be at the boundary of the realm, so as not to cause major damage to the Origin realm sea. Yi Tian said calmly. Seeing Yi Tian so calm, the Snow Maiden controller breathed a sigh of relief. Chapter 1984 If you don and #039, T leave, then stay here. Open black lens bracket request full order close black lens bracket. Yi Tian and the Snow Girl controller came to the overseas of the source world and faced the countless creatures of the world. At this time, Jin Yu's face changed and said, why did the endless controller leave the Sea of Origin? Isn't this courting death? Only by sticking to the Sea of Origin can he be invincible, and out of the Sea of Origin, how can he beat that? A few terrifying creatures of the half-step perfect controller level. But then, all the 10 realms level controllers were shocked. Boom! Yi Tian's breath began to change. I saw that Yi Tian broke the boundaries of the will and the body and control in an instant, and stepped into the realm of a half-step perfect controller. The countless resources on his body were refined by him, and the countless energy around him poured into his body. Yi Tian's body is the same as the cloned body, and it can be raised to the same realm as the cloned body in a short period of time. It was suppressed before, but now there is no need to suppress it. Certainly. 017. If Yi Tian wants to step into the bottleneck and break through, it will take time. Therefore, it is impossible for him to step into the realm of a half-step perfect controller of the extreme creation realm in one fell swoop. The endless controller has broken through and has reached the half-step perfect controller, but he has just broken through. The realm is not stable, and he can't beat these few half-step perfect controller level terrifying creatures, right? Another 10-level controller said worriedly. I believe in my little brother. The ancient demon controller said. I saw Yi Tian step into the encirclement of the creatures in the boundary of the world, and cast the domain of swallowing. In an instant, countless creatures of the boundary of the world were crushed, and the power of the body was absorbed by the domain of swallowing, and the incomparably pure energy was transformed by the domain of swallowing, making Yi Tian's transformation speed faster and faster. At the same time, Yi Tian's will increased rapidly, the control chains on his body were exercised one by one, and the energy of the chains was integrated into the body of control, which made Yi Tian's strength increase too fast. Soon, the dense creatures around the boundary of the world, including those powerful creatures of the 10-world level controller level, were all slaughtered. Seeing this scene, the terrifying giant snake at the half-step perfect controller level couldn't bear it any longer, and it killed Yi Tian. Open black lens bracket dark snake close black lens bracket. This is the name of this giant snake, which is second only to the strength of the top half-step perfect controller. I saw this dark snake smashed with its tail, and many time and space were shattered. The tail of the dark snake contained a terrifying dark power, as if it could smash through the Sea of Origin with one blow. Those 10-realm level controllers trembled when they saw this terrifying blow. If they face this blow, one by one can only wait to die. However, Yi Tian smiled slightly, waved his hand, and directly used the Wandao blade. His body has not yet entered the realm of a half-step perfect controller of the extreme creation realm, and he cannot use the extreme creation blade, but the top perfect control skills can still erupt with terrifying power. Coupled with the blessings of other top perfect control skills, Yi Tian can now burst into combat power comparable to the top half-step perfect control skills. Therefore, under one blow, the body of this dark snake was directly cut off by the Wandao blade, which severely injured it. Impossible, you have only broken through to a half-step perfect controller, how could it be possible to hit me hard? The dark snake was shocked. Let's go, if you all give up attacking the Sea of Origin, I can keep you from dying. Yi Tian said. Impossible, Dark Boss Snake said. This world has ushered in the era of the end of eternity. If we occupy it during this period, we may even hope to be promoted to the perfect ancestral beast. Don't let me give up. No matter how powerful you are alone, can't protect this world, and if you want to blame it, you are too wasteful, and even a perfect controller has not been born. Otherwise, we would not have come to fight the idea of this eternal world. 1. At this time, the big golden bird, the original golden light bird, also spoke. Cultivator, you can cultivate to the top half-step perfect controller, you are indeed very talented, but that's all, leave, I can spare your life. Sure enough, you still don't want to give up. Yi Tian was not surprised by this. In the past, he didn't know that the eternal world would be attacked by the creatures of the world, but now he knew it for a long time. Such an eternal world, similar to the original Sea of Origin, will enter an era called the end of eternity after a long period of time. The eternal world of this era will be very attractive to the creatures of the world. Once such a world is destroyed, the creatures of the world can draw substances that are of great help to them from the eternal world, thereby helping them break the shackles and be promoted to the perfect ancestor beast, which is comparable to the level of the perfect controller. Certainly, if the crisis of the last years of eternity is resisted, the Origin Sea will usher in a period of stability for a long time. If you want to avoid the arrival of the eternal end of the year, you can only give birth to a perfect controller in advance, triggering the transformation of the eternal world, and the time of the eternal end of the year will be infinitely delayed. It is a pity that although Yi Tian has reached the half-step perfect controller of the extreme creation, he is still not a perfect controller. Therefore, even if his body is immediately promoted to the half-step perfect controller of the extreme creation, it will not change the original Sea of Origin. Therefore, this battle is inevitable. Since this battle is inevitable, let's all come out. Yi Tian said lightly. Buzzing. A terrifying creature comparable to the half-step perfect controller level appeared and came to Yi Tian. 10, 20, 30. After a while, 66 terrifying creatures at the half-step perfect controller level appeared, and 18 of them were comparable to the top half-step perfect controller tier creatures. And your master, won't you come out? Yi Tian sneered. Hearing this, those 10 realm level controllers of the source realm sea trembled. They felt that so many half-step perfect controllers appeared, it was already extremely terrifying, even if they all came back, they were far from being able to compete. As a result, there is a master behind these half-step perfect master creatures. Interesting, you are not weak enough to sense our existence. A dark ape came out of nothingness, and it didn't seem to have much powerful aura, but the moment it appeared, even the primitive golden light bird lowered its head slightly, showing great respect for it. This shows how terrifying the strength of this ape is. But its strength could not be concealed from Yi Tian. 5.9 was a creature comparable to the half-step perfect controller level. Then, two more creatures appeared that were comparable to the top half-step perfect controllers. Open black lens bracket undead golden toad close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket mist ghost pung close black lens bracket. In addition to the dark ape, this time there were three creatures that were comparable to the peak half-step perfect controller level, and so many creatures that were comparable to the half-step perfect controller level. It can be said that the scale of this time is incomparable. Even if the ancestors of the 10 elements are still there, they have no qualifications to resist, they will be pushed horizontally in an instant, and they don't even need the dark monkeys, undead golden toads and misty ghosts to come forward. Okay, they're all out, so since you don't leave, stay here forever. Yi Tian's killing intent was boiling, filling the surrounding time and space. And these half-step perfect controller creatures are very puzzled. Yi Tian has just broken through, what qualifications does he have to say such a big thing? Chapter 1985 Show Strength, all slaughtered. Open black lens bracket seeking full order close black lens bracket. Court death. The original golden light bird took the lead, and it wanted to kill Yi Tian for its master. It felt that Yi Tian was only the top half-step perfect controller, and the strength he just showed was not as good as it. It doesn't need 3 peak half-step perfect master level masters to take action, it can deal with Yi Tian. Then, the original golden light bird rushed towards Yi Tian, its wings slashed towards Yi Tian, layer upon layer of time and space shattered, and the terrifying power was enough to kill any ordinary half-step perfect controller. However, Yi Tian didn't even look at him, and with a wave of his hand, he shattered the original golden light bird's body. In an instant, the original golden light bird's body was shattered, and all its vitality was annihilated. No matter how strong its recovery ability was, there was no hope of survival. With just one move, the original golden light bird fell. At this moment, all the 10 realm-level controllers were shocked, and those realm-level creatures were also stunned. The primitive golden light bird is a creature comparable to the top half-step perfect controller, and its strength is much stronger than the half-step perfect controller of the 10 elements ancestors. As for Yi Tian, who had just broken through to the half-step perfect controller, he actually instantly lost the primordial golden light bird. You actually have the strength of a peak half-step perfect controller. The undead golden toad said solemnly. Let's do it together. Mist Ghost Pung said. Okay, the dark ape nodded. After all, for this sake, they couldn't give up this chance. After all, the Jejia is too big. For them, the journey is an extremely long time, and occasionally it is easy to get lost in the Jejia area. And this area happens to have a world like the Source Realm Sea. This is luck. Once you miss it, you may have no chance to have it. So, they don't want to give up. Boom. 3 terrifying creatures comparable to the peak half-step perfect controller level led many half-step perfect controllers to kill Yi Tian. In an instant, Yi Tian's figure was covered in this piece of heaven and earth. The Sea of Origin. Those 10 realm-level controllers only saw the endless realm creatures, and could no longer perceive the specific situation of the battle. The Endless Master must win. Some 10 realms-level controllers secretly looked forward to it. Bang bang bang. The bodies of countless Jejia creatures exploded, and Yi Tian crushed them all the way. Except for the 3 creatures that were comparable to the peak half-step perfect controller, the other Jejia creatures were cannon fodder. In the blink of an eye, Yi Tian bombarded and killed a large number of boundary end creatures. Moreover, Yi Tian's strength is getting stronger and stronger. This is because his main body is rapidly improving his strength, and it will always be improved to the same level as copying his body. This is the horror of copying talent. When one body improves, other bodies will also improve simultaneously. Soon, Yi Tian's strength has risen to the pinnacle of a perfect controller at the peak of half a step. The undead golden toad, the mist ghost, Pung and the dark ape are no longer his opponents, they can only hide from a distance and attack, and let other creatures from the boundary of the world be used as cannon fodder, consumes the power of Yi Tian. But that doesn't help. Soon, Yi Tian started to break the first chain of creating extremes. Once broken, he would be the perfect half-step master of creating extremes. Click. The first extreme creation chain shattered and turned into an extremely pure source material that merged into Yi Tian's body. Yi Tian's body was transforming to the level of a half-step perfect controller of the extreme creation realm. What? He broke through again. The undead golden toads were dumbfounded. This is a breakthrough to the half-step perfect controller of the extreme creation, but Yi Tian has only broken through to the half-step perfect controller soon, and without refining the extreme substances, how can he break through to the half-step perfect control of the extreme creation the person? No, this guy is definitely not the cultivation base in front of him, he is a clone of an incomparably powerful existence. The undead golden toad thought of this. Immediately, they did not dare to attack Etienne again. Escape. The three terrifying creatures that were comparable to the peak half-step perfect controller immediately fled in the distance. At this moment, Yi Tian displayed an extremely perfect control technique, making extremely 10,000 blades. Puff puff. The three blades of extreme creation ripped apart time and space, hitting the three creatures that were escaping through the time and space channel. Puff. The three terrifying creatures were instantly killed, turning into corpses and floating in the void of the boundary of the world. Soon, Yi Tian smashed all the creatures around the boundary of the world, and there were countless corpses floating in this area. The crisis is over. Seeing this scene, the eternal masters of the Source Realm Sea are naturally extremely excited. After all, they are safe. Thanks to the Endless Master. Jin Yu and the others flew over and immediately thanked them. Just a little thing, Yi Sandao, little junior brother, what realm are you in? You have killed so many incomparably terrifying creatures. The Snow Maiden controller said in surprise. Create a half-step perfect controller of the extreme realm. Yi Tian said, to create a half-step perfect controller of the extreme realm, what realm is this? The ancient demon controller asked curiously. Seeing that they didn't understand, Yi Tian explained. Half-step perfect controllers are divided into ordinary half-step perfect controllers, top half-step perfect controllers, and peak half-step perfect controllers, and there is hope for peak half-step perfect controllers to attack the perfect controller. But in fact, on top of the peak half-step perfect controller, there is also a realm called the half-step perfect controller 017 of the extreme realm. If you want to enter this realm, it is more difficult to become a perfect controller. It is difficult, but once you become the perfect controller of the half-step of the extreme realm, the strength is comparable to that of the weaker perfect controller. Even in the ruins of eternity, the perfect controller of the half-step of the extreme realm is extremely rare. I see, the ancient demon masters realized in vain. At this time, they admired Yi Tian even more. After becoming the half-step perfect controller of the realm of creation, Yi Tian found that he could not enter the Sea of Origin realm, but he could still enter the Sea of Origin realm after paying a certain price. For example, forcibly resisting the origin of the Source Realm Sea, and then suppressing the strength to enter the Source Realm Sea, but in that case, it is difficult to do it in the Source Realm Sea. Yi Tian directly established a cultivation treasure place overseas in the Source World, and practiced overseas in the Source World. At the same time, he transferred his family and a part of the human race to this practice treasure land, so it was no different from usual. Just like that, time passed slowly. In the following years, from time to time, there will be creatures from the boundary of the realm come here to attack the original realm sea, but they are all solved by Yi Tian. Finally, after tens of thousands of eternal years have passed, the eternal end-of-year era of the Source Realm has officially passed. At this time, the Sea of Origin realm no longer attracts those creatures from the boundary of the realm, so without these troubles, Yi Tian can also practice peacefully. Chapter 1986 The Perfect Controller of Beiguan. Open black lens bracket full order close black lens bracket. Since the end of eternity in the Source World Sea has passed, the cultivation environment has been very good, which is one of the benefits. Of course, if it weren't for the existence of Yi Tian, the Sea of Origin boundary would have fallen long ago. Not long after, Yi Tian's body on the Source World Sea also had the same cultivation base as the cloned body. Before you know it, another 100,000 eternity years have passed. This day, during Yi Tian's cultivation, his eyes suddenly passed through the boundless territory and looked at a certain place in the boundary of the world. Bone Abyss is shaking, is that guy coming out? Yi Tian muttered. Since knowing that there is a sleeping perfect controller in the White Bone Abyss, Yi Tian has left an avatar to monitor the White Bone Abyss from a distance. After all, the White Bone Abyss is too close to the Sea of Origin. Perhaps for a 10-realm level controller, this is an incomparably long distance, but for a perfect controller, this distance is nothing at all. Therefore, Yi Tian must pay attention to the perfect controller of White Bone Abyss. Now, the White Bone Abyss is shaking, and the breath of the perfect controller appears, which means that the other party is about to wake up. Once upon a time, Yi Tian also gained a lot of benefits from the opponent, so as long as the opponent was not hostile, he would not react. White Bone Abyss. This treasure ground trembled violently, and immediately began to crack and collapse. In a short while, a terrifying aura disturbed the surrounding time and space. Then, a figure came out from the depths of the White Bone Abyss. This is a young man, his body exudes red golden light, and his aura far exceeds that of a half-step perfect controller. However, he did not discover Yi Tian's incarnation. After all, Yi Tian has too many perfect ancestors to hide himself, and he has many methods, and now he is a little far away. Under the full concealment, if the perfect controller is not paying attention, he will naturally not be able to discover Yitian. Wow! The young man moved quickly, and in a blink of an eye, he came to the Sea of Origin. This eternal world is still there. According to time, this place should have experienced the last year of eternity not long ago. This eternal world actually blocked the catastrophe of the last year of eternity. The young man was a little surprised. The area where the origin of the sea is located is a place where the world is not prosperous, and there are not many resources here, so the eternal world born here has not all resources, and it is too difficult to become a perfect controller. I originally thought that this place was occupied by creatures from the boundary of the world, and it was about to collapse. I wanted to take some eternal source substances to restore my strength. It seems that I have no hope, the young man murmured. Suddenly, he felt a gaze. Who? The young man said solemnly. A figure appeared, it was Yitian. When the young man saw Yitian, his expression changed. How is it possible to create a half-step perfect controller of the extreme state? Where is the Sea of Origin realm? How can a perfect controller of half-step creation of the extreme realm be born? This is too nonsense. There is only one reason, that is, Yitian did not come from the original world sea. What do you call your excellency? You must not be a practitioner of this eternal world, right? Said the youth. Yitian smiled slightly and said, Wu Dao Pagoda Yitian, but, I do belong to this eternal world, but I just happened to go to the eternal ruins and joined the Wu Dao Pagoda. 1. Eternal ruins, Wu Dao Pagoda, so it is. The young man suddenly realized that it is no wonder that the origin sea has passed through the last years of eternity, and there is a half-step perfect controller of the creation of the extreme realm sitting in the town, and the origin sea will naturally be safe and sound. Loose repair, Mo Chen. The young man briefly introduced himself. After chatting with Mo Chen, Yitian knew a little about the other party. Mo Chen has been to the eternal ruins, but he is not a practitioner of the eternal ruins. Like Yitian, he also came from an eternal heaven and earth, and that eternal heaven and earth is much stronger than the Sea of Origin and has many perfect controllers. Far from the eternal ruins. As for more details, Yitian is not clear, and the other party cannot reveal it. Yitian originally thought that Mo Chen would leave soon after staying here, but the other party stayed nearby, silently cultivating and regaining his strength. After all, the opponent has just woken up, and his strength has not fully recovered. Time passed slowly, and after a long time passed, Mo Chen finally fully recovered. This day, Mo Chen came to Yitian. Yitian, I have a great thing, I'm here to work with you. Mo Chen said, great thing, cooperation. Yitian is a little wary in his heart, after all, he has no friendship with Mo Chen. If there is something important, why doesn't Mo Chen find his old friend? He doesn't believe that Mo Chen has been the perfect controller for so long, and there are few perfect controller friends. So, Yitian asked, Mo Chen, you are the perfect controller. Looking for me, the unfamiliar half-step perfect controller of the creation of the extreme realm. Shouldn't you cooperate with the perfect controller you are familiar with? Mo Chen smiled bitterly. To be honest, I offended a huge force in my hometown, so I didn't dare to go back. As for the perfect controller of the eternal ruins, I'm not too familiar with it, I've only been there a few times. Besides, I'm asleep. It's been such a long time, who knows what happened. Instead of going back to find a partner, it's better to work with you, Yitian, right here. What cooperation? Yitian asked. Of course, he didn't really believe what Mo Chen said, just curious why Mo Chen asked him to cooperate. Mo Chen revealed, in fact, I discovered a treasured place at the beginning, and I was severely injured and fell, and I had no choice but to fall asleep and regain my strength. If I go again, it will be very dangerous. If I go with me alone, I can save my life. That's why I need a partner. If it's so dangerous, it won't help me to go. 1. Yitian said. Mo Chen smiled and said, don't worry, in fact, I was only a little bit successful. If I add you, I can succeed 100%. Moreover, there is a place where there is an extreme material, and you are half a step in the extreme creation. What the perfect controller needs most is the creation of extreme substances. I can guarantee that all the created extreme substances obtained will belong to you. Moreover, other benefits, we are also divided into 4 or 6, me 6, you 4, how about it? Is there a creation of polar substances? Yitian was a little moved. After all, if there is a large enough amount of extreme creation material, he can break the third extreme creation chain in a short period of time, thereby increasing his strength. So, Yi Tian finally agreed after learning about that treasure. Get Zhao then. Mo Chen asked Yi Tian to prepare more, and he also had to reconcentrate his will to clone, and agreed to go to that treasure land after 10 eternity years. Mo Chen, I can't believe it completely. Maybe he wants to find a ghost. I have 3 avatars in total. I can keep a copy of the body at the eternal ruins, and recondense one in the Sea of Origin. Duplicate the body, let the duplicate body and the will clone go away, and my body still doesn't move. If something really goes wrong, it doesn't matter if the duplicate body and the will clone fall. If Mo Chen dares to pit me, then he will regret it. Quote. Yi Tian thought to himself. Then, he self-annihilated a duplicate body in the ruins of eternity, and the original body on the Sea of Origin began to condense the duplicate body. After the duplicate body was condensed, the duplicate body then condensed the will clone. Soon after, everything was ready. This day, Yi Tian's duplicate body and will clone merged with Mo Chen and headed to that special treasure land. Chapter 1987 9 Rivers Void, Lord of the 7th Layer of Corruption. Open black lens bracket full order close black lens bracket. It didn't take long for Yi Tian and Mo Chen to arrive at that special treasure land. After all, after Mo Chen was seriously injured, he fled in a hurry, and naturally he couldn't escape very far, so the white bone abyss where he slept was very close to this treasure. It's here. Mo Chen pointed to an area not far away and said. Yi Tian sensed this treasured place, which turned out to be in the old nest of a group of creatures from the borders of the world. No, it should be said that these creatures live around this treasure. Mo Chen introduced. This group of creatures from the edge of the world are the 100-legged crocodile dragon clan. There are a lot of people in this clan, but there are very few strong ones. There are only a few 100-legged crocodile dragons that are comparable to the half-step perfect controller. It's not really a powerful race. Yi Tian said lightly. Of course, for the Sea of Origin, the 100-legged crocodile dragon here is extremely terrifying. Perhaps the original 10-line ancestors and primitive ancestors also came here, but after sensing the 100-legged crocodile dragon here, they listed this place as a forbidden area, and they dared not go deeper. Don't worry about these centipede crocodile dragons, with them, they can also guard this place for us. Mo Chen smiled. Immediately, Yi Tian and Mo Chen burst out some breaths, making these 100-legged crocodile dragons tremble, not daring to attack Yi Tian and them. After all, Yi Tian and the others' strength far surpassed these 100-legged crocodile dragons, and these 100-legged crocodile dragons were not stupid, so naturally they did not dare to attack Yi Tian and them. In an instant, Yi Tian 017 and Mo Chen passed through the territory of these 100-legged crocodile dragons and entered this treasure. This treasure land, I call it the 9 Rivers Void. Mo Chen said. The 9 Rivers Void has a total of 9 layers of voids, and each layer of void is a long river that surrounds endless time and space. The resources of the first 3 layers of voids are average. For us, it is not very dangerous, but it is more dangerous for the centipede crocodile dragon. And every layer of the void is occupied by an overlord or a powerful race, and any creatures who enter here will be attacked by them. We don't need to stay in the first 3 layers of void, we can directly pass through the 3rd layer of void and enter the 4th layer of void. It is the 7th layer void. The long river in the 7th layer void is called the corrosive river. The river water there can even corrode the body of the peak half-step perfect controller. Although we can resist the power of corroding the long river, the strength will be affected. The most dangerous thing in the 7th layer void is the Lord of Corruption. The Lord of Corruption is an extremely terrifying creature, and can be incarnated in countless ways. Even if his incarnation is killed, the power of the incarnation can be superimposed on other incarnations, making the incarnation more and more powerful, more and more powerful. I've been hit hard by the Lord of Corruption. Quote, in addition, I sensed the aura of the creation of the extreme substances on the 7th floor, but the battle was fierce at the beginning, and I did not carefully investigate the situation of the extreme creation of substances, but there is indeed the creation of the extreme substances. 1. Mo Chen assured. Okay, then let's look for some resources in the 4th layer void to the 6th layer void, and then go to the 7th layer void. Yi Tian nodded. Subsequently, Yi Tian and Mo Chen entered the 4th void of the 9 Rivers Void. Here, they encountered a race, Wan scale fish. This race is very powerful, much stronger than the 100-legged crocodile dragon, but for Yi Tian and the others, it is still very weak. After Yi Tian and the others killed a group of 10,000 scale fish, these 10,000 scale fish hid and did not dare to attack Yi Tian and them again. Then, Yi Tian and Mo Chen searched for resources in this layer of void, and spent some years collecting a lot of resources that would help their cultivation. Not long after, Yi Tian and Mo Chen came to the 5th layer void of the 9 rivers void. Here, there is a powerful overlord-level creature, the Lord of Blood Light, whose body is a blood light, claiming to be the Lord of Blood Light. The strength of this blood brilliance lord is comparable to that of the peak half-step perfect controller, far from Yi Tian and Mo Chen's opponent. However, the Lord of Blood Brilliance has a special ability, that is, it is difficult to kill. It can continuously recover itself with the help of the power of the 5th layer of void. Even the perfect controller wants to kill the Lord of Blood Brilliance, effort. When Yi Tian came to the 5th layer of the void, he sensed it with his copy talent, and found out the talent of the Lord of Blood Light. Perfect level ancestral Fu, the river of blood is indestructible. Another perfect ancestor, good luck. Yi Tian immediately copied the perfect ancestral gift of the Lord of Blood Glory. It's you. The Lord of Shuihuang recognized CJFJ that Mo Chen had left, and immediately panicked, and immediately ran away in fright. After all, its strength is far inferior to Mo Chen, so naturally it will not court death and fight with Mo Chen. Mo Chen didn't bother to kill him, so he gathered the resources here with Yi Tian. But, Yi Tian secretly merged the perfect ancestor of the blood river indestructible. After the fusion, I learned about the effect of this perfect level ancestor, that is, in some special rivers, it can absorb the power of the river to ensure that it can quickly recover from injuries and absorb energy so that it has a near indestructible effect. It is precisely because of this that the Lord of Blood Glorious can quickly recover from his injuries, and a perfect level controller can't kill it with a single blow. Certainly, it is also because of the special environment of the 9 rivers void. If it is in the boundary of the world, the immortality of the Blood River will not be able to stop the attack of the perfect level controller, and the Master of Blood Light will definitely die. It didn't take long for Yi Tian to completely integrate the Blood River immortality, the perfect ancestor. A lot of life-saving or immortality types of perfection have more and more ancestors, and my life-saving ability will become more and more exaggerated in the future. Even a perfect controller stronger than me can hardly kill me. Yi Tian thought to himself. After a period of time, Yi Tian and Mo Chen almost scraped the resources of the 5th layer of void. After that, they came to the 6th layer of void. This layer of void is occupied by a race. This race is the Void Eye race. This race is good at annihilating the enemy's will, but it is not a threat to Yi Tian and Mo Chen. After killing some Void Eyes, Yi Tian and Mo Chen began to collect the resources here, and spent some time. Finally, on this day, they are ready to enter the 7th floor of the 9 rivers void, which is also an extremely dangerous floor. Mo Chen said that he encountered danger on the 7th floor and was severely injured by the Lord of Corruption on the 7th floor. Although Yi Tian doesn't know whether what Mo Chen said is true or false, the danger of the 7th floor is certain, and the 7th floor is very likely to have the material of creation, which is what Yi Tian is looking forward to. Yi Tian and Mo Chen immediately entered the 7th layer void and came to a river of corrosion. Immediately, the amount poured in, no matter how to avoid it, this unique can spread over time and space, affecting their bodies. Sure enough, it is an extremely terrifying corrosive power. Yi Tian muttered. Just then, a voice came. Mo Chen, you are courting death, and you are here again. The Lord of Corruption has come. I saw a dense number of incarnations of the Lord of Corruption appearing all around. Each incarnation has a strength that is almost beyond the perfect controller of the peak in half a step, and each incarnation contains a terrifying power of corrosion. The combat power of the Lord of Corruption has skyrocketed. Be careful, it is very difficult for us to kill the Lord of Corruption, mainly to fight against or hurt the Lord of Corruption, negotiate with him and let him not attack us. Mo Chen suggested. It is good. Yi Tian nodded. Chapter 1988 The Appearance of the Nameless Kun. Open black lens bracket seeking full order close black lens bracket. In an instant, Yi Tian and Mo Chen fought against the Lord of Corruption. Boom! An incarnation of the Lord of Corruption was smashed by Yi Tian and Mo Chen, but the power of these incarnations was integrated into other incarnations, making other incarnations stronger and stronger. Create extreme devouring domain. Yi Tian used this move to directly absorb the power of the incarnation of the Lord of Corruption. After the incarnation of the Lord of Corruption fell, most of the power was intercepted by Yi Tian, causing the strength of other incarnations to be unable to improve. It can be said that after the perfect control technique of creating extreme swallowing domain is displayed, this trick of the Lord of Corruption will be abolished. Suddenly, a large number of incarnations of the Lord of Corruption disappeared, and all the power was concentrated on the body of the Lord of Corruption. Next moment, the true body of the Lord of Corruption came and faced Yi Tian and Mo Chen. Without further ado, let's fight directly. It has to be said that the strength of the Lord of Corruption is not weak, even if it is against Yi Tian and Mo Chen, he can remain undefeated. Yi Tian didn't show his full strength because he sensed something was wrong. Although the strength of the Lord of Corruption is stronger than that of Mo Chen will not be severely injured to the extent that he needs to sleep. With the strength of the Lord of Corruption, even if Mo Chen is defeated, there is no problem in escaping. But the result was that Mo Chen slept for countless years, and it was obvious that he had encountered an irresistible enemy, and the gap in strength was huge. If he only encountered an enemy like the Lord of Corruption, Mo Chen would not need his help at all. After all, Mo Chen has a will clone and a body, and using the will clone to drag the Lord of Corruption and find resources by himself is not a problem. Therefore, Mo Chen concealed something. Because of this, Yi Tian did not show his full strength. After a long time, the Lord of Corruption stopped. Your strength is very strong, there is no point in continuing to fight, let's talk about peace. The Lord of Corruption opened his mouth. Mo Chen immediately stopped and said, okay, then let's talk about peace. Seeing this, Yi Tian also stopped. The peace talks were mainly about the Lord of Corruption and Mo Chen. Mo Chen put forward some requirements, but the Lord of Corruption agreed to some of the conditions after hesitating for a while. In the end, the peace talks came to a successful conclusion, and everything seemed to be going well. The result of the peace talks was that Yi Tian and Mo Chen could find resources in the 7th layer of the 9 Rivers Void, and several treasured places in the 7th layer of the Void also allowed them to enter and practice. However, Yi Tian and Mo Chen could not disturb the Lord of Corruption. Yi Tian, go, let's go look for resources. Mo Chen urged. Yi Tian nodded. Immediately, the two began to search for resources in the 7th layer void of the 9 Rivers Void. Creatures like the Lord of Corruption, such as the world's end, will stay here almost forever and will not go out, so it does not have the idea of collecting resources and trading with other creatures. Therefore, he does not bother to collect resources that are of no value to him. Because of this, there are still a lot of resources in the 7th layer void of the 9 Rivers Void. Time passed slowly, Yi Tian found a lot of resources. This day, Yi Tian sensed the breath of creating extreme matter. Golden fruit of the underworld. Yi Tian came to the front of a golden fruit. The underworld golden fruit is a kind of creation material, but its grade is weaker than that of the 100 desolation golden fruit, but its value is still very high. In the days that followed, Yi Tian found several more extreme substances, but not many. After that, Yi Tian didn't find any more polar creation substances. Yi Tian was not disappointed by this. After all, it would be abnormal if any treasure land possessed a large amount of creation material. This time, Yi Tian's harvest is not small, but it is not an astonishing harvest. Yi Tian, it's time for us to go to the void on the 8th floor. The Lord of Corruption contacted me before, and he wants to join us to enter the 8th floor to deal with his old opponent. His old opponent is stronger than him, he is not, therefore, he wants to join forces with us. The cultivation environment on the 8th floor is better, and he wants to occupy the 8th floor. Mo Chen came to Yi Tian. Said, no problem, Yi Tian agreed, but in fact, Yi Tian was extremely vigilant in his heart. He had already noticed that Mo Chen had a problem, but he couldn't say anything. But at this moment, Yi Tian suddenly realized that the real problem might be on the 8th floor. Mo Chen has definitely been to the 8th floor of the 9 Rivers Void, maybe he was severely injured on the 8th floor. Yi Tian thought to himself. This possibility is not non-existent, but very likely to exist. If ordinary people had harvested so many treasures, they might get lost and even trust Mo Chen, but Yi Tian has always been extremely vigilant and would not trust anyone casually. Ask for flowers. Soon, Yi Tian and Mo Chen met the Lord of Corruption again. Two friends, with the combat power of your perfect masters of the 4 pavilions, I can definitely easily crush the old opponent of the 8th layer void. The Lord of Corruption said happily. Soon, Yi Tian and the others entered the 8th layer of void. Just after entering the 8th layer void, the Lord of Corruption and Mo Chen took out a leaf for the first time, inspiring the power of the leaf. Then, a terrifying breath came. In the next instant, a pair of pupils locked Yi Tian. Open black lens bracket unknown Kun close black lens bracket. Yi Tian's copy talent sensed the innate talent of this creature and knew its origin. It turned out to be the nameless Kun. What the Lord of Corruption said was not the nameless Kun at all, he lied to me. 0. Yi Tian realized that not only the Lord of Corruption had deceived him, but Mo Chen definitely belonged to one of them. And the Lord of Corruption and Mo Chen used a special treasure at the same time, to avoid being locked by the nameless Kun, and he was the chosen cannon fodder. At this moment, he completely understood. Mo Chen was definitely hit hard by the nameless Kun, and he and the Lord of Corruption were not enemies at all, but allies. Boom! The nameless Kun descended and attacked Yi Tian. Now, Mo Chen was extremely excited. Successful, the nameless Kun is very strange, and will only choose the opponent who is locked at the first time to attack. If the cultivator is too weak, there is no way to compete with the nameless Kun, and there is no chance to delay time. The Lord of Corruption and I don't want to be cannon fodder, so we can only let Yi Tian, a fool, be the one. Yi Tian's strength is not weak. He can definitely hold the nameless Kun for a while. The nameless Kun will release the nameless mist. Yi Tian will have a hard time escaping. He has to fight the nameless Kun, delaying time for us. Ha ha ha, we will definitely thank you when we take away the treasure here immediately. Mo Chen, grab the treasure quickly, don't waste time. The Lord of Corrosion said coldly. If it wasn't for the special contract signed with Mo Chen, he wouldn't have cooperated with Mo Chen honestly. However, in the next instant, Mo Chen and the Lord of Corruption were stunned. I saw that Yi Tian didn't resist. The cloned body and the will clone took the initiative to let Wuming Kun swallow it, and there was no battle at all. Then, the nameless Kun turned his head, and his pupils stared at Mo Chen and the corpse of the Lord of Corruption. Chapter 1989 Kill Mo Chen. Open black lens bracket full order close black lens bracket. How is it possible? Yi Tian is also a half-step perfect controller of the ultimate creation, and he has mastered many perfect mastering skills, and his strength is not weak among the half-step perfect controllers of the ultimate creation. With his body plus will clone, why have to resist for a while? Why did he give up resisting? Mo Chen was dumbfounded. This is not normal. Yi Tian gave up his resistance and was directly swallowed by the nameless Kun. Isn't this equal to courting death? It is not normal for a promising half-step perfect controller to give up resistance directly. Yi Tian was swallowed, which means that no one dragged the nameless Kun for them. Therefore, the nameless Kun quickly locked Mo Chen and the Lord of Corruption. Before, they could use the secret treasure to instantly block Wuming Kun's lock, but it could only be used once, and now there is no way to continue shielding Wuming Kun's perception. Immediately, they were locked in. 017. Escape. The Lord of Corruption and Mo Chen immediately decided. They couldn't defeat the nameless Kun. The last time they joined forces, the Lord of Corruption was severely injured and fled back to the 7th floor of the Nine Rivers Void. Mo Chen was even more miserable. He almost fell, but he didn't dare to stay in the void of the Nine Rivers and slept. He shuttled to another place and slept for countless years. This time, Mo Chen woke up and found the Lord of Corruption to join forces again. I thought it was foolproof this time, but it turned out to be a mistake. However, the speed of the nameless Kun was too fast, and in an instant, he came to the front of Mo Chen and the Lord of Corruption and directly cast his nameless fog. These nameless mists immediately enveloped the surrounding territory, preventing Mo Chen and the Lord of Corruption from escaping from this misty area. Soon, the fight has begun. In an instant, Mo Chen was injured. He couldn't withstand the attack of the unknown Kun at all. The gap between the two sides was too great. The Lord of Corruption was slightly better, but also wounded quickly. When Mo Chen, Lord of Corruption and Wuming Kun were fighting, Yi Tian was inside Wuming Kun's body. Logically speaking, if the general perfect controller is not as strong as the nameless Kun, once it enters the body of the unknown Kun, it will be refined by the unknown Kun. At this moment, Yi Tian is in the kunhai in the stomach of the unnamed Kun. In the kunhai, the acidic substances here can corrode everything, but Yi Tian always uses the immunity perfect ancestors, immortal perfection ancestors and other perfect level ancestor Fu offsets the damage, but even so, it doesn't offset for long. But since Yi Tian dared to take the initiative to let the nameless Kun swallow it, he naturally had hope of saving his life. Because, he copied the perfect ancestor of the nameless Kun. Perfect level ancestral Fu, nameless obliteration. Perfect level ancestral Fu, Kunti. Perfect is the ancestral Fu, swallowing all things. Perfect ancestor Fu, nameless mist. The nameless Kun has a total of these 4 perfect level ancestors. If all of them are copied and merged, Yi Tian will have these 4 perfect level ancestors. Kunhai was swallowed up. Because of this, he was not afraid that he would be swallowed up by the nameless Kun, so he entered the body of the nameless Kun with confidence. Mo Chen, if you dare to pit me, the benefits I got from you in the first place should not exist. If you really cooperate with me, I will really help you, but you dare to pit me. Yi Tian was annoyed, but this time, Mo Chen was tricked by him, and he might be in a desperate situation now. Time passed slowly. Yi Tian easily combines the 4 perfect ancestors of the nameless Kun. Among them, the perfect ancestor of woming is terrible. It can be used in conjunction with the swallowing of all things. Once the enemy is swallowed, it will automatically displaying this perfect ancestral gift of nameless erasure. You can erase the traces of the enemy's existence, and there will be no traces of the opponent between heaven and earth, unless it is an existence stronger than Etn who can remember him, exist. Therefore, countless practitioners are extremely afraid of the nameless Kun, because they are afraid that their traces will be erased. After Etn refines these three kinds of perfect ancestors, he is no longer afraid of Kunhai, and he can ignore Kunhai's corrosive ability by swallowing everything and let him stay here with peace of mind. Certainly, if Wuming Kun wants to deal with him with all his strength, he is still a little dangerous, so he still has to leave here. The clone of the will has fallen. Mo Chen was covered in scars, and even if he was the perfect controller, his recovery speed was fast, but he couldn't hold it, and he was in the fog of namelessness, so he couldn't escape at all. You still have to cast that treasure before you can escape. Mo Chen moved a piece of his body, and most of his will and strength were swallowed up by this piece. Then, Mo Chen and this fragment forcefully broke through the nameless fog, and even broke through the 8th layer of the 9 rivers void. And the Lord of Corruption also paid a heavy price and escaped from the 8th layer void. If he did not escape, he would have to fall and die. Mo Chen didn't dare to stay, and immediately escaped from the 9 rivers void, but his body was extremely weak, as if he was about to fall asleep again. Damn, Yi Tian knew that he was going to die, so he deliberately committed suicide, just to trick me. Mo Chen thought angrily, but in the next moment, his expression changed. No, how can I still remember Yi Tian's existence? Mo Chen suddenly realized a problem, that is, Yi Tian probably didn't fall. Therefore, once it is swallowed by the nameless Kun, the traces of that person's existence will be erased, and this nameless Kun is extremely powerful, even more powerful than him. If Yi Tian is swallowed by this nameless Kun, there will be no Yi Tian in his memory. But now, he still remembers Yi Tian, which shows that Yi Tian is still alive. Just as he was. Not long after opening the 9 rivers void, a figure stopped him. Seeing this person, Mo Chen's expression changed drastically. Yi Tian, you are not dead, Mo Chen said in fear. At this moment, he has already been severely injured. Where is Yi Tian's opponent? If Yi Tian wanted to kill him, he would have no way to resist. Yi Tian, I didn't cheat you. I didn't know that the 8th 5.9th floor of the 9 rivers void would be so terrifying. It was the Lord of Corruption who deceived me. Mo Chen still wanted to explain, but Yi Tian would not believe his nonsense. Mo Chen, you shouldn't die. Yi Tian shot, and directly cast the nameless fog. The nameless mist shrouded, directly cutting off Mo Chen's hope of escaping. The nameless mist. Mo Chen was stunned. Isn't this the ability of the nameless Kun? In the next moment, Yi Tian's extremely 10,000 Dao blade ripped open his body, injuring the dying him again, and was almost on the verge of death. Then, a series of perfect control skills greeted Mo Chen, and Mo Chen was killed by Yi Tian in an instant. After Mo Chen died, Yi Tian took away the treasure from Mo Chen. Hey, what is this? Yi Tian sensed a special piece of debris, and this piece of debris actually had the aura of a high-level perfect treasure. Chapter 1990 The Real Fruit of 10,000 Thunders, The Real Purpose. Open black lens bracket seeking full order close black lens bracket. High-grade perfect treasures are very rare and precious, and their value is far less than that of medium-grade perfect treasures. Even for a force like Wu Dao Pagoda, the value of a high-level perfect treasure is extremely huge, enough for a force like Wu Dao Pagoda to compete for it. Yi Tian's current best perfection treasure is also a medium perfection treasure, and he has not yet obtained a high-level perfection treasure. But right now, this shard came from a high-level perfect treasure. Before Mo Chen escaped by relying on it, Yi Tian thought to himself. He doesn't have time to study this fragment now, so he put it away and will study it slowly in the future. Right now, the most important thing is to deal with the unknown Kun. Being able to let Mo Chen risk his life twice to enter the 8th floor of the 9 rivers void must be because the 8th floor has unimaginable opportunities and benefits, so he entered there again. Naturally, he also wanted such benefits. Swish. Yi Tian's copy body also entered the 9 rivers void, and soon came to the 7th floor of the 9 rivers void. Here, Yi Tian found the Lord of Corruption who was healing at 29. Yi Tian, you are not dead. The Lord of Corruption was shocked. Immediately, he was a little scared. His strength did not need to be afraid of Yi Tian, but he was in a state of heavy damage, so he had to be afraid. Lord of Corruption, you dare to pit me? Yi Tian said coldly. The Lord of Corruption trembled and said, Yi Tian, this is none of my business, it is Mo Chen who wants to trap you, you have to find him. Mo Chen, I've already killed it, Yi Tian said lightly. When the Lord of Corruption heard this, he was even more afraid. Yi Tian, killing me won't do you any good, and although I am seriously injured, but if you really have to work hard, you may not end up in a good way. If you let me go, I can share the information on the 8th floor of the 9 Rivers Void to you. The Lord of Corruption said quickly. Information on the 8th floor of the 9 Rivers Void. Yi Tian is really interested in this. Tell me why you want to enter the 8th floor of the 9 Rivers Void. Yi Tian asked. The Lord of Corruption quickly revealed an important piece of information. The 8th floor of the 9 Rivers Void has the true fruit of 10,000 thunders. This treasure can help Mo Chen and I step from a primary perfect controller to a medium perfect controller. If we are in the middle of the perfect controller, we don't need to be afraid of the nameless Kun. Wan Lei is the real fruit. Yi Tian had heard of this kind of treasure for the first time, but he also knew that for the perfect controller, most of the perfect controllers were almost always the primary perfect controllers, and it was difficult to continue to break through. On top of the elementary perfect controller, there are also medium perfect controller, high perfect controller and super perfect controller, but if you want to become a super perfect controller, you must break through with the half-step perfect controller of creating extreme state. After the breakthrough, the super perfect ancestral body is condensed, and there is hope to become a super perfect controller in the future. Of course, that's just hope. After all, there are too many powerhouses who have condensed a super perfect ancestral body, but in the end they haven't broken through to become super perfect controllers. Apart from Wan Lei True Fruit, what else? Yi Tian questioned. I don't know. The Lord of Corruption shook his head. We don't have a chance to slowly look for it on the 8th floor. I still learned that the 8th floor has the true fruit of 10,000 thunders through a special method. As for the others, I really don't know, already. Yi Tian can roughly judge that the Lord of Corruption should not lie. Yi Tian, I have already said, how about this matter? The Lord of Corruption said nervously. Not good. Yi Tian sneered. Immediately, Yi Tian shot. Damn, you disloyal bastard. The Lord of Corruption said angrily. Hee, it's you who broke your promise first, you agreed to cooperate, but you cheated on me and asked me to keep my promise. Yi Tian mocked. Boom, the battle was almost crushing, and the Lord of Corruption was no longer Yi Tian's opponent. Although his condition was much better than Mo Chen's, he soon suffered a complete setback and was on the verge of death. Last moment, the Lord of Corruption wanted to hold Yi Tian to die together. Yi Tian, the 7th layer void is my home ground, if you want to kill me, then die with me. 1. The Lord of Corruption mobilized the power of the 7th layer void and directly dragged Yi Tian to annihilate together. Boom, endless time and space smashed, all energy exploded, and this piece of void was annihilated billions of times. And Yi Tian was in the annihilation of hundreds of millions of voids, and used various means to avoid damage. After a long time, the 7th layer void was almost at the ruins, and everything was destroyed. However, the energies of the 9 Rivers Void and other voids continue to pour in, and it will not be long before this place will slowly recover. At this time, the Lord of Corruption is completely dead, but, dead, too. But soon, Yi Tian recovered completely. The Lord of Corruption is indeed a good move. If other half-step perfect controllers of the extreme creation realm are perfect controllers, they may be seriously injured. Unfortunately, I have too many perfect level ancestors, and the perfect level ancestors that can avoid damage are not good either. This move won't kill me, at most it will bring me a little trouble. Yi Tian muttered. After solving the Lord of Corruption, the next step is the Nameless Kun. He is definitely not an opponent of the Nameless Kun. After all, his strength is comparable to the ordinary elementary perfect controller, and the Nameless Kun is comparable to the medium perfect controller. Even if dozens of elementary perfect controllers join forces together, they cannot compete against this Nameless Kun. But 017 is. Yi Tian doesn't need to beat him, he just needs to hold the Nameless Kun. It's not difficult to hold the Nameless Kun. The Nameless Kun will have the fog of the Nameless, and so will I. Everyone casts the fog of the Nameless, and they are involved in each other. If you sacrifice a duplicate body and a will clone, if you can get enough the benefits, that's worth it. Yi Tian thought to himself. So, he was ready to do it. 9 Rivers Void, the 8th layer of void. Yi Tian rushed out from the kunhai of the unnamed Kun's body. At this time, the Nameless Kun discovered that Yi Tian was not dead, and was immediately curious. However, the Nameless Kun's IQ is not high, it can grow to this level, it is completely because the bloodline and the level of life are too powerful. The Nameless missed. Yi Tian performed this perfect ancestral gift. And the Nameless Kun also did the same, releasing the fog of namelessness. Suddenly, the Nameless Kun and Yi Tian started to fight. Yi Tian's cloned body and willpower clone are not the opponents of the 5 Kuns, and they can only remain immortal. At the same time, Yi Tian's second cloned body shuttled into the 8th floor of the 9 Rivers Void to search for the true fruit of 10,000 thunders and other treasures. Hopefully this time there is a great harvest, Yi Tian said expectantly. Chapter 1991 Break the 4th pole chain. Open black lens bracket full order close black lens bracket. Yi Tian roughly knew the location of Wanlei true fruit from the Lord of Corruption, and then shuttled towards that location. Soon, Yi Tian found the true fruit of Wanlei. Wanlei true fruit is not 1, but 3. In fact, there are definitely more than 3 Wanlei true fruits, but the Nameless Kun is afraid that it will often devour the Wanlei true fruit. I'm afraid there are none left. Yi Tian immediately took the Wanlei true fruit from here. Afterwards, Yi Tian went to other places to look for treasures. Time is limited, he naturally wants to get more benefits and resources. Along the way, Yi Tian discovered a lot of good things, but he would not collect any resources that were of no use to him, otherwise it would be a waste of time. Time passed slowly, Yi Tian collected more and more resources, and the harvest was extremely rich. Create extreme material. Yi Tian became excited, and he sensed a lot of creating extreme substances. I saw that somewhere in the river on the 8th floor of the 9 Rivers Void, Yi Tian sensed a drop of golden water droplets. These golden water droplets were flowing, as if they were life, but they were not actually life, but a kind of creation. Extreme material. Make extremely water droplets. Yi Tian knew their names when he saw them. The speed of creating the extreme water droplets is extremely fast, traveling around in this river, but Yi Tian's speed is even faster, easily grabbing a drop of extreme creating water droplets. There's not much material in this droplet, but there are enough water droplets here. Then, Yi Tian kept collecting the extremely created water droplets here and collected them at the fastest speed, because his other duplicate body and will clone were about to be unable to hold on. With the passage of time, a drop of water droplets fell into Yi Tian's hands. Suddenly, the clone of Yi Tian's will fell into the hands of the Nameless Kun, and only the cloned body still persists. This clone of the will that replicates the body, go and help. Yi Tian decided, this can persist for a while longer, allowing him to find more resources and treasures. Wow, this will clone went to help, and Yi Tian's cloned body collected extremely water droplets here alone. It didn't take long for the polar water droplets here to be collected. Afterwards, Yi Tian continued to look for other resources, but also found many treasures that could enhance the body and will of control. Just when the cloned body and the second will clone were about to be unable to hold on, Yi Tian left the 8th layer void of the 9 Rivers Void and returned to the outside world. The Nameless Kun will not leave his territory, so Yi Tian can breathe a sigh of relief. It has to be said that the current Nameless Kun is not an existence he can resist, the gap in strength is too large, and he has no ability to contend at all, so he can only sacrifice his life to delay time. Go back first. Yi Tian returned to the vicinity of the Sea of Origin. Then, he began to retreat and practice. This time, he needs to make good use of all these resources, as well as those water droplets and the golden fruit of the underworld. Maybe there is hope to break a chain of creation again. Time passed slowly. A large amount of resources are absorbed and refined by Yi Tian, and the perfect will of creating a half-step and the body of perfect control of creating a half-step of the extreme are improving, and Yi Tian is also absorbing those creating extreme water droplets and the golden fruit of the underworld. The 4th root of creating the pole chain is gradually loosening and showing signs of breaking. After more than 300,000 eternity years have passed, Yi Tian has refined all the many resources, and even exhausted all the materials of creation, but still has not broken the 4th chain of creation. At this time, the most important resource in Yi Tian's hands still had 3 myriad thunder true fruits left. Wanlei true fruit can help elementary perfect controllers break the shackles and be promoted to medium perfect controllers. It also has an extremely powerful effect on a half-step perfect controller like me. Once I take Wanlei true fruit, the will and the body of control should be greatly improved. Moreover, Wanlei Zhengguo has the effect of enhancing the body of control and the potential of will, so it can help those who are elementary perfect control break the shackles. Yi Tian decided to take Wanlei true fruit. Although it would be a waste to take Wanlei true fruit for the half-step perfect controller of the extreme realm, if it can improve his strength, even if it is a waste, it is worth it. Then, Yi Tian took a myriad thunder fruit. Boom! Terrifying energy emerged, tempering Yi Tian's body and will in a very violent way. Moreover, Yi Tian's life level has also been abruptly improved by a small amount, which is the powerful effect of Myriad Thunder True Fruit. Gradually, Yi Tian's will and body of control have improved a lot, and it was not until a long time later that this Myriad Thunder True Fruit really exhausted its energy. And at this time, Yi Tian's strength improved a lot. It's really a waste. Wanlei Zhengguo is more suitable for elementary perfect controllers to break the shackles, that's how to maximize the use, but it can improve the strength. Yi Tian also found that the Myriad Thunder Fruit also helped to break the fourth extreme chain, but it was only an incidental effect, making it easier for Yi Tian to break the fourth extreme chain. Originally, Yi Tian was about to break the fourth extreme creation chain, but now after refining the 10,000 Thunder True Fruit, there is only a little left to break the fourth extreme creation chain. After a while, Yi Tian decided to take a Myriad Lei True Fruit again. Although the effect of taking Wanlei True Fruit this time was not as good as last time, his purpose was to break the fourth chain of extreme creation. If he really broke it, his strength would definitely increase again. Then, Yi Tian directly swallowed another Myriad Thunder True Fruit, absorbing the energy of refining the Myriad Thunder True Fruit. Boom! The energy of Wanlei Zhengguo Dejiao constantly tempered Yi Tian's will and body of control, and also affected the fourth chain of extreme creation. Yi Tian took the opportunity to hit the fourth afforestation chain, hitting again and again. After hitting millions of times, the fourth pole-making chain was finally broken by Yi Tian. After the fourth extreme creation chain was broken, the ultimate creation material transformed into the extreme creation chain merged into Yi Tian's body of control, making Yi Tian's body of control more powerful. A lot of strength has been improved, Yi Tian said excitedly. With his current strength, he would definitely still be unable to beat Wu Mingkun, but it would be difficult for Wu Mingkun to kill him. The last time the clone of the body and the will clone didn't take long, there are still a lot of resources from the 8th floor of the 9 Rivers Void that have not been collected, so I will collect some more this time. Yi Tian decided. So, Yi Tian came to the 9 Rivers Void again. Chapter 1992 Above the Perfect Way, the Extreme Way. Open black lens bracket seeking full order close black lens bracket. Entering the 8th floor of the 9 Rivers Void this time is the same as the previous plan. That is to use a duplicate body and a will clone to drag the nameless Kun, and his second duplicate body to collect resources. Yi Tian entered the 8th floor of the 9 Rivers Void, and immediately attracted the lock of the nameless Kun. The nameless Kun is full of endless hostility to any creature that enters his territory, and immediately attacked Yi Tian. A war begins. Boom. This time, Yi Tian was obviously a lot easier. Although he still couldn't beat Wu Mingkun, he was able to completely hold Wu Mingkun through many means, making it difficult for Wu Mingkun to kill him. At the same time, another copy of Yi Tian's body dived into the 8th layer of void and began to look for other resources. Before, Yi Tian had not looked in many places, so this time he had enough time to look for resources. Moreover, he also collected some resources that were of no use to him, and he could keep them to cultivate the human race. As time passed, Yi Tian searched every area of the 8th layer void, and wherever he went, he didn't say that he didn't leave any grass, but it was almost the same. 017. It is worth mentioning that Yi Tian has actually found a small number of extreme substances. After a long time, the 8th layer void had nothing good for the time being, and all were found by Yi Tian. Should I go to the 9th floor of the void? Yi Tian hesitated. There are terrifying creatures like the nameless Kun in the void of the 8th floor, so is the 9th floor even more dangerous. Unfortunately, he didn't know the situation of the 9th layer void at all. Let the will clone go in and have a try, it's just a matter of losing a will clone. Yi Tian thought to himself. Then, Yi Tian let the will clone enter the 9th floor of the 9 Rivers Void. However, he was surprised to find that the space-time barrier between the 9th layer void and the 8th layer void was too strong. It took Yi Tian a long time to break the space-time barrier and successfully enter the 9th layer void. If he hadn't dragged the nameless Kun, he would definitely not have been able to enter the 9th layer void. As soon as he entered the 9th layer void, Yi Tian was immediately hit hard. The endless kendo aura tore the body of Yi Tian's will clone. Even if he tried his best to fight against it, it would be difficult to hold it. Kill. Time passed by every second. Yi Tian continued to perceive the situation of the 9th layer void, and only perceived a sword, and this piece of void only had this thing, and everything else was lost. Perfect treasure. Yi Tian was shocked. He did not expect that the 9th floor of the 9 Rivers Void would actually give birth to a perfect treasure. Moreover, this is obviously not an ordinary perfect treasure, even the medium perfect treasure he obtained is far less than this sword. High-level perfect treasure. No, even a high-level perfect treasure can't make my body unable to carry it. After all, I haven't touched it, it's still far away. Could it be this super perfect treasure? When he thought of the super perfect treasure, Yi Tian was extremely shocked and delighted. There is only one super perfect treasure he has seen so far, and that is the Wudao Pagoda. However, the Wudao Pagoda restrains its breath and will not release such a terrifying power, so anyone can approach the Wudao Pagoda. However, this perfect treasure has not yet been fully conceived. Yi Tian secretly said, a perfect treasure, if it has not been fully conceived, its power is extremely violent, but it will be protected by heaven and earth and will not be disturbed by the outside world. And the 9th layer void is the protection area of this super perfect treasure. If Yi Tian hadn't forcibly entered the 9th layer void, Yi Tian would not have known the existence of this super perfect treasure. A super perfect treasure, even a top force like Wudao Pagoda will start a war for this. Yi Tian thought to himself. And now, this perfect treasure has been discovered by him. And it's very remote here, maybe he's the only one who found this super perfect treasure. Unfortunately, this super perfect treasure has not yet been conceived, and when it is truly conceived, I am afraid it will take an incomparably long time. But this is also good, if it is conceived now, I can't take it away. Yi Tian thought to himself. But even so, this super perfect treasure can still bring unimaginable benefits to Yi Tian. That is, it can help Yi Tian comprehend the extreme way. Extreme Tao is also a Tao that transcends the way of perfection. The way of perfection contains 3.3 billion kinds of changes, but the extreme way is different. It only contains one kind of change. The so-called extreme way is to combine the 3.3 billion changes of the perfect way into one change is to condense the power of Tao to the extreme. Once you comprehend the extreme way, the combat power will be extremely terrifying. However, according to his understanding in Wudao Pagoda, even some high-level perfect controllers can't comprehend a little bit of extremity at all, and it is too difficult to fully understand extremity. Basically, condensing 3.3 billion kinds of changes into 1 billion kinds can be regarded as understanding the fur of the extreme way, and then a certain amount of power can be erupted. However, those who are in perfect control simply don't know how to comprehend the extreme way, because there is no extreme way between heaven and earth, so there is no reference. However, there is a kind of treasure that contains the extreme way, that is, the super perfect treasure. For example, the Wudao Pagoda contains the power of the extreme way, but ordinary people are not qualified to comprehend it, unless it is the real high-level people of the Wudao Pagoda. In addition, when the super perfect treasure is being conceived, the extreme way is also pregnant, and the kendo breath that Yi Tian bears is actually the release of the extreme power, and it is easiest to understand the extreme way of the sword at this time. This is a great opportunity to comprehend the extreme way of the sword. Yi Tian said excitedly, once he imagined. However, the power of the extreme way is too terrifying, and my body won't last long, but it doesn't matter, if I comprehend a little bit of the mystery of the extreme way, I can persist here for a long time. For the next few years, let's practice here. Anyway, I will condense and copy the body very quickly. If it's a big deal, I will condense again and again. It's worth paying this price. Then, Yi Tian began to comprehend the extreme way of the sword here. Not long after, the will clone shattered. So, Yi Tian's cloned body entered here and continued to comprehend the extreme way of the sword. When this cloned body couldn't hold it anymore, Yi Tian's other cloned body left the 8th layer void, got rid of the nameless kun, and after duplicating the cloned body again, it entered the 8th layer void again, and then of the cloned body dragged the nameless kun, and the other cloned body entered the 9th layer void to realize the extreme way of the sword. It's a bit of a hassle, but it's worth it. Before you know it, hundreds of thousands of eternity years have passed. Chapter 1993 The prototype of the sword in #039's extreme way, the strength has skyrocketed. Open black lens bracket seeking F. In these hundreds of thousands of eternity years, Yi Tian didn't know how many times he had duplicated his body and his will clone. In short, the duplicated body had fallen again and again. If it were other perfect controllers, they would not be able to bear such losses long ago. In other words, Yi Tian's cohesion and copying of the body paid a relatively high price, but it also consumed inexhaustible resources. However, the end result was good. At this moment, Yi Tian successfully condensed and merged the 3.3 billion changes of the perfect swordsmanship into 1 billion, and successfully mastered a little bit of the sword's extreme way. Now, Yi Tian's kendo power has surpassed the way of perfect time and space, reaching a very terrifying realm. When Yi Tian has mastered the fur of the extreme sword, and protected himself with the aura of the sword, carrying this fur of the extreme sword, he can resist the impact of the extreme power of the sword. Therefore, after Yi Tian entered the 9th floor of the Nine Rivers Void, he directly resisted the aura of the sword's extreme Tao. Of course, he could only stay at the outermost periphery, and if he went deep, he wouldn't be able to last long. But in this way, Yi Tian can persist for a long time, and does not need to condense and copy the body again and again, and the aura of practicing and comprehending the extreme way of the sword will naturally grow a lot. Moreover, as he masters more and more swordsmanship fur, he can naturally get closer to this super perfect treasure, and the effect of enlightenment will naturally get better and better. Before you know it, another 100,000 eternal years passed. But now, Yi Tian's comprehension effect of 100,000 eternal years far exceeds the previous effect of hundreds of thousands of eternal years comprehension. The progress is getting faster and faster, and the changes in the perfect kendo have merged into 300 million changes. Yi Tian said excitedly. At this moment, the extreme way of the sword he mastered is about to condense into a prototype. Of course, at least the perfect kendo changes must be integrated into 100 million changes, then it can be called the prototype of the extreme sword. 9 Rivers Void, the 8th layer of Void. A copy of Yi Tian's body came here, ready to compete with the Nameless Kun, which is to use the Nameless Kun as a free sparring partner. Yi Tian's cultivation realm is indeed not as good as the Nameless Kun, but now that he has mastered the fur of the sword's extreme way, he is about to condense into a prototype. Why cooperate with the sword's extreme way? Yi Tian also specially created a perfect control skill, the extreme sword-making blade. The kendo blade is a perfect control technique created by imitating the creation of the extreme 10,000 Dao blade. Boom! Yi Tian fought with the Nameless Kun, using the sword's blade to match the fur breadth of the sword. Each blow pierced the body of the Nameless Kun, causing damage to it. Although the damage is very low, it means that Yi Tian is already qualified to fight with the Nameless Kun, and even has a certain upper hand. But the Nameless Kun is now very difficult to hurt Yi Tian. If the battle goes on for a long time, the person who finally wins must be Yi Tian. I didn't expect that after mastering the fur of the extreme sword, my strength is comparable to that of a medium perfect controller. If I master the real sword extreme, wouldn't I be invincible among the medium perfect controller? Yi Tian thought to himself. Seeing the power of the sword's extreme way, Yi Tian is extremely eager to master the sword's extreme way, and he is also extremely eager for other extreme ways. However, he only has the opportunity to comprehend the extreme way of the sword now, but he can't comprehend other extreme ways, unless he finds other super perfect treasures, but such opportunities are too rare. Don't be greedy first, let's master the sword's extreme way first. Just this sword's extreme way, the future will be enough for me to reach an incredible level among the perfect masters. 1. Yi Tian secretly said. Next, Yi Tian practiced hard again. Time passed slowly, and hundreds of thousands of eternal years passed without knowing it. This day, Yi Tian finally merged the 3.3 billion variations of the perfect kendo into 100 million variations, triggering the transformation of the perfect kendo. An incomparably sharp aura erupted from Yi Tian's body, and the pale golden light could smash all substances. This is the power of the prototype of the extreme sword. I saw Yi Tian casually pointed a finger, and a light golden light cooperated with the extremely kendo blade to smash the time and space, spanned an infinite distance, and bombarded the Nameless Kun. Then, the Nameless Kun screamed in pain and was not lightly injured, but recovered quickly. But this already means that Yi Tian can easily hurt the Nameless Kun, and his strength has surpassed that of the Nameless Kun. Although it is not much stronger, Yi Tian is also very satisfied. This is only the initial form of the condensed sword's extreme way. After a long time, the condensed sword's extreme form of the sword will become stronger and stronger, and the strength will become more and more terrifying. Yi Tian secretly said. Soon, Yi Tian discovered a secret. He found that with the power of the rudimentary form of the sword, infiltrating into the root of the half-step perfect control body of the extreme creation state, it can assist in impacting the extreme creation chain. This is the conclusion that Yi Tian reached by an accidental experiment. That is to say, after he mastered the prototype of the sword's pole, the difficulty of breaking the pole chain in the future was reduced many times. For flowers, if I had mastered the rudimentary form of the sword's ultimate way earlier, the ultimate creation material I obtained before might be able to help me break 5 or 6 ultimate creation chains. Yi Tian thought to himself. Of course, he was lucky enough to master the rudimentary form of the extreme sword, which is already against the sky, and he can't ask too much. Yi Tian did not clean up the creatures in the 9 Rivers Void. These creatures can intercept the practitioners trying to enter here. They are a natural protective layer, and he also built his own dojo on the 8th floor of the Nine Rivers Void. Sitting here for a long time. One of his cloned bodies will always stay here, and a will clone will sit in the Sea of Origin. After all, the Nine Rivers Void has a super perfect treasure that is being bred here, and it can also assist him in comprehending the extreme way of the sword. He naturally has to pay great attention to it. 0. In this way, as time passed, Yi Tian's sword extreme form became stronger and stronger. This day, inside the tower, a message spread among the half-step perfect controllers of the extreme creation. The Golden Mountain is about to open. Build a mountain of gold. Yi Tian naturally knew that this place was the first dojo in the ruins of eternity to create a half-step perfect controller of the extreme realm. Once, the ruins of eternity did not have the realm of a half-step perfect controller of the extreme realm. It was a peak in half-step perfect controller. The controller accidentally discovered the creation of the extreme material, which led to the half-step perfect controller realm. And the one who gathered a huge amount of material and created countless things of extreme creation has gone far and far in the realm of the half-beautiful controller of the extreme creation realm. And the half-step perfect controller of the creation of the extreme is called the master of the extreme. And the realm of creation is also called by his name. It is a pity that the creator of the pole has already fallen, and he fell in an accident. Otherwise, with the potential of the creator of the pole, he is definitely one of the most terrifying people in the eternal ruins. Although the master of the creation of extremes has fallen, the golden mountain of extreme creation has remained, and there are still a lot of extreme creation materials left on the golden mountain of extreme creation, so it has also attracted many perfect controllers of the extreme creation realm. The golden mountain of extreme creation is only allowed to enter the half-step perfect controller of the extreme creation realm, and the perfect controller is not allowed to enter. No one dares to violate this rule, otherwise they will be punished by some extremely powerful beings. Building a golden mountain is an opportunity. Maybe I can get a lot of material to break the chains of creating more. Yi Tian muttered about the corpse. Chapter 1994. They also mastered the fur of the pole. Open black lens bracket full order close black lens bracket. The half-step perfect controllers who created the extreme realm went to build the extreme golden mountain, and this time there was no perfect controller to lead the team. After all, the strength of the half-step perfect controllers of the extreme creation realm is comparable to that of ordinary weaker elementary half-step perfect controllers. In addition, most of them are will clones, so there is no need to send a powerful perfect controller to protect them. Yi Tian followed the other half-step perfect controllers of the Wudao Pagoda to create the extreme gold mountain, and they soon arrived. For this chance to create a golden mountain of extremes, many people who create the perfect half-step of the extreme realm attach great importance to it, so many perfect controllers of the half-step of the extreme creation have come. However, some half-step perfect controllers of the extreme creation realm did not come, mainly because they had other opportunities that were temporarily reluctant to give up. The avatar of the will could not come, and the main body did not dare to enter here. After all, once the main body fell, it would be true of fallen. The real body of the half-step perfect controller who dares to enter here is the incomparably powerful 017. In short, a small half of the perfect controller who created the extreme state in the half-step came here. Since the golden mountain has not been officially opened, the surrounding area is covered by a faint layer of golden light, and they cannot enter. Don't look at the thinness of this layer of protection, but even a high-level perfect controller can't break this layer of protection. After all, the original creator of the pole was a super perfect controller. Created outside the extremely golden mountain. An area was occupied by the half-step perfect controller of the Wudao Pagoda, and more than 20 half-step perfect controllers of the extreme creation were staying here. At this time, a half-step perfect controller of the extreme creation realm spoke up. He is one of the most powerful half-step perfect controllers of the Wudao Pagoda, the master of Tai. Everyone is the half-step perfect controller of the Wudao Pagoda, and they are all brothers, so this time I have to remind you that once some half-step perfect controllers of the extreme creation are encountered, they will run away as soon as possible. The opponent is fighting. Everyone is the perfect controller of the half-step of the creation of the extreme realm. As long as they are not mortal enemies, they will give face and will not pursue. Here is the information about some of the perfect controllers of the half-step of the extreme creation realm from other forces. You can take a look. Tai, said the controller. Immediately, every half-step perfect controller of the creation of the extreme realm obtained a piece of information. Yi Tian naturally obtained this information and browsed it carefully. This is mainly to introduce some powerful and extremely powerful half-step perfect controllers. For example, the ancient controller of the Natural Disaster Alliance has a powerful bloodline, and he is also the son of a super-perfect controller, and his status is very high in the Natural Disaster Alliance. And the Master of the Ancient Times is even more terrifying. He has an extremely powerful defense. He once fought against dozens of creatures comparable to the Perfect Master without losing. Those Perfect Master creatures could not break his defense. According to the information, today's violent ancient masters are very likely to be comparable to medium perfect masters. Another example is the White Moon controller of the Xuanbi sect, who has an extremely terrifying speed. It is difficult for all kinds of speed-limiting perfect controllers to limit her speed, and it is difficult to attack her, so she is extremely terrifying. The half-step perfect controller of the realm encountered her and could not escape. There are probably more than a dozen perfect controllers of the half-step creation of the extreme state, all of which are almost impossible to compete with. Yi Tian looked at their information and had a thought in his heart. Are these half-step perfect controllers of creating extreme realms the ones who have mastered the extreme way? Yi Tian guessed. This possibility is still very high, so these dozen of the perfect half-step masters of the creation of the extreme state all have very deep backgrounds. If there is the help of their elders or masters behind them, it is not impossible to comprehend the extreme way in advance. After all the major forces have super-perfect treasures, and it is still possible to give a comprehension quota. Of course, among the half-step perfect masters of the creation of the extreme realm, the talents who can perceive the fur of the extreme path are also incomparably high. Yi Tian has the affinity of Tao, coupled with the medium perfect treasure lotus, and the super-perfect treasure that is being conceived, the effect is so good. If other half-step perfect controllers of the extreme creation realm go to comprehend the super-perfect treasures that have been bred, the effect will definitely not be good, so it is very difficult to comprehend. Therefore, it would be extremely difficult for the major forces to cultivate a half-step perfect controller of the creation of the extreme realm who has comprehended the fur of the extreme way. Time passed slowly, and finally it was time for the opening of the Golden Mountain. This day, a golden passage appeared in the extreme gold mountain, and a half-step perfect controller of the extreme creation flew into the extreme golden mountain. The golden mountain has 3 layers. The first layer is a void opened up by the creator of the extreme. There are a lot of resources, many of which are helpful to the perfect controller, so it is also a good harvest. The second floor area is the cage of all things, where many vicious ancient creatures are imprisoned, each of which has the strength comparable to the perfect controller, and the half-step perfect controller of the extreme creation needs to defeat them before they can enter the third layer area. Of course, once you defeat these ancient creatures, you can get a copy of the extreme material, but you can only get one. The real chance is in the third layer area, so the purpose of the half-step perfect controller who came here to build the extreme gold mountain is naturally to enter the third layer area. Buzzing. Many half-step perfect controllers of the creation of the extreme realm came to the first floor area. They are not in a hurry to go to the third floor area, because if you want to get the benefits, you cannot get it by entering the third floor area first, and it has nothing to do with time. Therefore, they are not in a hurry. Besides, there are a lot of good things in the first floor area, maybe they are lucky, they can also discover the creation of extreme substances, so they naturally have to stay in the first floor area for some more days. Soon, each resource was found and collected by Yi Tian. That's Tianyu Baolian. Yi Tian sensed a good thing. Tianyu Baolian is an invaluable treasure for a primary perfect controller, it can 100% make a primary perfect controller step into a medium perfect controller. In terms of value, it is even higher than the value of Wanlei Zhengguo. Unexpectedly, Tianyu Baolian was born here. At this time, another half-step perfect controller of the creation of the extreme state also sensed Tianyu Baolian. The other party will naturally not give up. After all, the value of Tianyu Baolian is too high. Even if you don't need it, you can trade it at 5.9 in exchange for the resources you need. Endless controller, this Tianyu Baolian, I want it. The other party said directly. Yi Tian recognized him, the Yunli controller from the Hall of Longevity, and the half-step perfect controller of the Eternal Ruins, so the general name is still known. He doesn't know much about Yunli's controller, but he doesn't need to. Yunli controller, you want to snatch me? Yi Tian said coldly. Are you trying to snatch me? Yunli's controller was furious. After all, he is also a half-step perfect controller of the extreme creation realm who has practiced for endless years, and a half-step perfect controller of the extreme creation realm like Yi Tian is just a newcomer, how dare he fight against him? Swish, the Yunli controller rushed directly to Tianyu Baolian, not bothering to talk nonsense with Yi Tian. And Yi Tian shot directly. Chapter 1995 Create a very golden list. Open black lens bracket seeking full order close black lens bracket. Make 1,000 blades. Yi Tian hit him, except that he didn't use the power of the sword's rudimentary form, it can be said that he didn't keep his hands at all. Boom! Yunli's controller hurriedly took Yi Tian's move, and was blown away. I didn't expect you to be weak. Yunli said solemnly from the controller. Immediately, the controller of Yunli began to become serious, and his breath exploded. At this time, Yi Tian could perceive how many extreme chains he had broken. 5 pole chains. Yi Tian was slightly surprised. He has only broken the 4th pole-making chain. However, he has created more perfect skills, and has a large number of perfect ancestral gifts, no matter the potential of the foundation is terrible, so in the case of a difference in the chain, even if he does not use the sword's ultimate breath, the strength is not weaker than Yunli's controller. However, if he couldn't defeat the master of Yunli, he wouldn't be able to take Tianyu Baolian. Then show your strength, Yi Tian secretly said. Moreover, it is impossible for him to never reveal his strength. So, Yi Tian immediately used the blade of extreme sword Dao, carrying the aura of the sword's extreme Dao. Of course, Yi Tian did not show the power of the sword's rudimentary form, but only showed a little bit of fur. If you show the power of the sword's rudimentary form, maybe you can hit Yunli's controller, and even kill him. Tear, the endless time and space were torn apart by the swordsmanship blade, and the Yunli controller was still the same as before, fighting with a perfect defensive skill. But suddenly, his defense was directly torn apart, the golden light on his body was also torn apart, and the body in control was directly broken open. At this moment, Yunli's controller was injured, and the injury was not light. More importantly, the wounds on his body cannot heal in an instant. The breath of the sword's extreme way. Yunli's controller is not too knowledgeable, so he recognized it, and he was immediately shocked. Yi Tian actually comprehends the fur of the sword's extreme way, how is this possible? How long has it been since Yi Tian became the perfect half-step master of the creation of the extreme realm? How could he have realized the fur of the extreme sword of the sword so quickly? And, according to his understanding, Wudao Pagoda does not seem to have a perfect treasure about the extreme way of the sword. Escape. The controller of Yunli did not dare to fight with Yi Tian, otherwise he might really fall. Although this body is a clone of the will, he doesn't want to fall, otherwise he will not be able to gather the clone of the will for a long time, and he can't enter here again with the main body. Yunli escaped from the controller, and Yi Tian did not go after him. He came directly to Tianyu Baolian, carefully took Tianyu Baolian, and put it away immediately. In the following days, Yi Tian found more good things, and also fought with other half-step perfect controllers of the extreme creation realm, so his strength was gradually spread by the other half-step perfect controllers of the extreme creation realm. For a time, many half-step perfect controllers of the creation of the extreme realm knew that Yi Tian had mastered the fur of the extreme sword. This day, Yi Tian is going to go to the second floor area, mainly because the resources in the first floor area are running out, and staying here is undoubtedly a waste of time. Moreover, he has already gained enough, and there is no need to stay in the first floor area of the extremely golden mountain. Then, Yi Tian went to the second floor area. Passing through a golden light curtain, Yi Tian came to the second floor area. The second layer area is called the Cage of Everything, and the Cage of Everything that every half-step perfect controller of the realm of creation enters is different, and it is almost impossible to meet each other. Yi Tian entered a cage of all things, which was like a void, and in this void was imprisoned a terrifying creature. This creature is bound, but it can be judged from the breath on its body that it possesses the strength of a perfect controller. Here comes a half-step perfect controller of the creation of the extreme. It seems that the golden mountain of the extreme is opened again, the goddamn master of the extreme creation. The creature growled wildly. Yi Tian probed this creature with his copy talent, and learned its name, Swallowing Heaven, and it also has a perfect ancestor, Layan. At this moment, the shackles of swallowing the sky disappeared. Yi Tian needs to defeat Tiantianjian in order to obtain the material reward of creating the extreme, and only then can he enter the third layer of void. Just when Tianyu attacked, Yi Tian directly broke out the strongest blow, and used the power of the sword's rudimentary form to urge the blade of the extreme kendo. Puff! The kendo blade tore apart Tian's body and inflicted heavy damage on it in an instant. It was only a short while before the swallowing scorpion fell. If it weren't for the critical moment, the power of the cage of all things protected it, it would be dead. Pole power. Tun Tianjian was also dumbfounded. How can someone just come to a semi-perfect controller of the creation of the extreme realm, and he will master the extreme? If it were not protected by the cage of all things, it would be dead. Immediately, the cage of all things bound it again, and it would take a long time to recover from its injuries. And after Yi Tian defeated Tiantianjian, the cage of all things gave Yi Tian a copy of the ultimate material. I saw a bottle of extreme constructing purple liquid appearing in front of Yi Tian. This extreme constructing substance was not bad, and the quantity was quite large, so Yi Tian took it away. Then, a portal appeared, which was the passage leading to the third layer void. Yi Tian did not stay here and directly entered the third layer of void. In the third layer of void, in the depths of endless time and space, a list is standing there. That's a gold medal. The real monstrous existence among the half-step perfect masters of the creation of the poles is a high-level perfect treasure, which belongs to the master of the poles, and is placed here. Anyone who enters the gold ranking of the supreme creation can be listed on it, get the treatment of the title of the gold inventory, and be known by the half-step perfect control of the ultimate creation of the future. Moreover, every half-step perfect controller of the extreme creation realm can practice in the void within the golden creation ranking, which is enough to practice 100,000 eternal years. The internal void practice environment of the golden list is very good, and 017 can improve understanding and assist in the change of enlightenment. Of course, the creator of the extreme has also transformed the golden list of extreme creation. Anyone who enters the interior of the golden list of extreme creation can get a batch of extremely created substances, and in these 100,000 eternal years, if the speed of progress is fast, you can get more polar material. It's a bit similar to the blood battle list, Yi Tian secretly said. In fact, the blood battle list is similar to the gold list, and the two are similar. However, there are a lot of names of the perfect half-step masters of the creation of the extreme realm recorded on the gold list. It is extremely difficult to reach the top 100, here. There are even some half-step perfect controllers who can improve quickly, but deliberately do not improve. After entering here, they start to improve. The speed of progress is naturally fast, and they can obtain more extreme substances. Yi Tian is confident to reach the top 100 in the gold ranking, but he has no hope of reaching the first place. After all, among the half-step perfect controllers of the supreme realm in the past, who knows how many deliberately suppress their strength in order to gain it here? What about more powerhouses who create extreme material? Certainly, Yi Tian doesn't care about the ranking of this list. This time he can get more extreme material, just improve his strength. Go over. Yi Tian went to the top gold list. And when they were walking towards the gold list, they were suppressed by the power of high-level perfect treasures. It can be said that without enough strength, he is not even qualified to enter the gold medal list. Chapter 1996 Yi Tian and #039's Progress, The Shock of Wu Dao Pagoda. Open black lens bracket full order close black lens bracket. The power of making the extremely golden list is relatively mild, and it is not so violent and lethal. However, the strength is not enough, and it cannot compete with the power of the extremely golden list, so it is impossible to enter the interior of the extremely golden list. The average half-step perfect controller of the creation of the extreme realm is also unable to enter the gold medal list, and a very powerful half-step perfect controller of the extreme creation realm is required. Yi Tian walked towards the gold ranking of the extreme building step by step, mobilizing the strength of his entire body to counter the gold ranking of extreme building. Time passed slowly, and soon he came to the top of the gold list, but at this time, he clearly felt the suppression of the limit, as if it was extremely difficult to take a step. With my strength, if I don't use the power of the rudimentary form of the sword, it is a bit reluctant to enter the gold list. Yi Tian secretly said. Of course, he could use the secret technique to temporarily explode his strength to forcibly cross the last distance, or he could directly use the power of the rudimentary form of the sword, and he could also easily enter the interior of the golden rank. It's better to use the power of the prototype of the sword, it has already been exposed anyway. Yi Tian's body was filled with the power of the prototype of the sword, and under this power, it directly suppressed the power of the extremely golden list. Suddenly Yi Tian touched the golden list and stepped into the interior of the golden list. At the same time, Yi Tian's name appeared on the top gold list, and this name will be permanently engraved on it. Even if Yi Tian has not made any progress, he will still be ranked last and will not disappear. Inside the golden list, it is a world of its own. At this time, there are already more than a dozen perfect half-step controllers of the creation of the extreme realm, and each of them is very powerful. After Yi Tian entered here at this moment, a batch of resources appeared beside him. This is the first batch of donations from the gold medal list, which includes some materials. The creator of the extreme is really rich, how many years have passed, and now he can gift so many extreme materials. Yi Tian exclaimed, but it's normal to think about it carefully. At first, no one knew the value of the extreme creation material, so the master of the extreme creation was crazy to collect, and no one knew how much the extreme creation material he collected. Of course, there will definitely not be too much of the material to create the gold mountain, and maybe one day the material here will be exhausted. Therefore, Yi Tian naturally had to seize the opportunity to get as many rewards as possible this time. Start practicing, and strive to quickly break the 5th root of extreme material. Yi Tian muttered. Immediately, he began to absorb the pole creation material, and combined with the power of the sword's pole prototype to attack the 5th pole creation chain. With the help of the power of the sword's rudimentary form, Yi Tian's difficulty in breaking the 5th Jiku chain has been reduced many times. In addition, Yi Tian still has these extremity creation substances, so it will naturally not take long to break the 5th extremity creation chain. With the passage of time, Yi Tian's strength continued to increase as many resources and materials of creation continued to be consumed. Moreover, Yi Tian is still comprehending the extreme way of the sword, so the prototype of the extreme way of the sword is also growing and improving. After a long time, Yi Tian finally broke the shackles in one fell swoop after consuming a lot of extreme creation substances, breaking the 5th extreme creation chain. Immediately, Yi Tian's strength increased again. In addition, Yi Tian's rudimentary form of the extreme sword of the sword has also improved very quickly, and the speed of the transformation and fusion of the kendo has exceeded that of before. Obviously, after the rudiment of the extreme sword of the sword, it is a new world. Before you know it, 7 or 80,000 eternity years have passed. At this time, Yi Tian had already broken the 6th chain of creating extremes, and the kendo changes had merged to 6 million, which directly caused the power of the rudimentary form of the extreme sword to skyrocket. This day, the gold medal for creating extremes has also donated a batch of resources, including some extreme creating materials. Now the power of my sword's rudimentary form has skyrocketed. Although these extremity materials are not many, there may still be hope for me to break the 7th extremity chain. Yi Tian thought to himself. So, he began to use these polar creation substances to impact the 7th polar creation chain. Boom! The power of the rudimentary form of the sword's pole penetrated into the root of the body in control, assisting the creation of the pole material to break the 7th pole of creation chain. Time passed slowly, and Yi Tian gradually felt that the 7th chain of creation was becoming more and more slack, and there were signs of cracking. Finally, after a long time, when the material of creation was exhausted, he was lucky enough to break the 7th chain of creation. So far, Yi Tian's strength has increased a lot again. Hey, luck is really good, I was lucky enough to break the 7th chain. From entering the gold list to the present, I have broken 3 chains. The speed of progress is too fast. Yi Tian muttered. Of course, his ability to progress at such a speed has a great relationship with the rudiment of the sword's ultimate path. Otherwise, it would be good to break a chain of ultimate creation just by the creation of the ultimate material gifted by the gold medal list. Afterwards, Yi Tian looked at the list of the half-step perfect controllers of the extreme constructing gold list, and found that his name had already entered the top 100 of the golden constructing golden list, and his ranking was relatively high. The 18th place on the gold list. I didn't expect the ranking to be so high. Yi Tian was a little surprised. But think about it carefully, although some of the perfect controllers have different identities, brought in a lot of resources or materials, and deliberately hit the top of the gold list, but they are qualified to enter the half-step of the gold list. The step perfect controller itself is very powerful, and it is very difficult to continue to improve the strength. Therefore, their room for improvement is very limited. At this time, only 10,000 eternal years remained until Yi Tian left the gold ranking. Yi Tian knew that he would definitely not be able to get the first place on the gold medal list, but he was very satisfied. Time passed, and 10,000 eternal years passed without knowing it. This day, Yi Tian was reprimanded, and his ranking was also down. The 10th place on the gold list. Entered the top 10 of the gold list, which is very good. Yi Tian smiled slightly, and soon, this list was known by the major forces. No Way Tower. The Lord of Time and other high-level officials are discussing about Yi Tian. Just got the news, Yi Tian broke into the 10th place on the gold list. What, the 10th place on the gold medal list? How is this possible? Those who are able to enter the top 10 of the gold medal list, who are half-step perfect controllers of the perfect world, do not have a special background. I remember that you, Lord of Time, are only rank. Let's make the 88th place on the gold list. Ahem, the rank of the gold ranking list doesn't mean much. Some people who are half-step perfect controllers of the ultimate realm know that the gold mountain is about to open. They have deliberately prepared a lot of materials and left countless precious treasures without refining. Just wait. It is only refined after entering the gold list of constructors. There are also some super perfect controllers who even surpass the super perfect controllers to provide help. Therefore, many of the half-step perfect controllers of the extreme creation are ranked too high. It doesn't make any sense. But Yi Tian's identity is average, and we didn't offer any help. He can still reach the top 10 of the gold ranking, which is beyond our expectations. Dezhao, according to the information, Yi Tian has mastered the fur of the extreme sword and may even have mastered the prototype of the extreme sword. Our Wudao Pagoda does not involve the perfect treasure of the extreme way of the sword. How did Yi Tian realize the fur of the extreme way of the sword? If he wanted to comprehend it out of thin air, it would be too difficult, right? Maybe there are other opportunities. In short, any opportunities he has belong to him. Ha ha ha, how can we snatch the opportunity with a junior? Yi Tian's talent is very high and his potential is very high. Would you like to focus on cultivating it? For example, give him the opportunity to comprehend the perfect treasure. Give him to comprehend the perfect treasure. Such an opportunity, even those high-level perfect masters are extremely eager, so give it. I think it is possible to give some years of comprehension opportunities. After all, with his current strength, he is comparable to Yu Li, and we also comprehended 3 million eternal years for Yu Li, and if we comprehend Yi Tian, not too much. In the end, these high-level officials decided to wait for Yi Tian to come back, and let Yi Tian comprehend the 3 million eternal years in the perfect treasure. Chapter 1997 4 Prototypes of the Extreme Way. Open black lens bracket seeking full order close black lens bracket. Out. Yi Tian was a little reluctant to build the gold mountain. After all, the cultivation environment in the gold medal list was really good, and he also gave a lot of resources and materials for free. Unfortunately, the stay was too short. However, if he stayed for a long time, the resources to build the gold mountain would have been exhausted long ago, and it would not be his turn. Subsequently, Yi Tian returned to the Wudao Pagoda. At this time, the Lord of Time came to Yi Tian. Have seen the Lord of Time? Yi Tian said respectfully. The Lord of Time praised. Yi Tian, you are very good, you actually broke into the top 10 of the gold medal list. Just luck, Yi Tian said modestly. Immediately, the Lord of Time talked about business. Yi Tian, because of your excellent performance, this time Wudao Pagoda is going to focus on cultivating you, and now there is a big opportunity. The Lord of Time said, you can enter the super perfect treasure of Wudao Pagoda. Understand the power of the extreme way. 1. What? The power of enlightenment? Yi Tian was shocked. It was surprising that he had received such treatment. As far as he knows, even many perfect controllers in the Wudao Pagoda have no chance to comprehend the power of the super perfect treasure. At this time, the Lord of Time 017 waved his hand, and the phantoms of 6 perfect treasures descended. Our Wudao Pagoda has a total of 6 super perfect treasures. The Lord of Time, Yi Tian was shocked. He also thought that the Wudao Pagoda was only a super perfect treasure, that is, the Wudao Pagoda, a super perfect treasure, but he did not expect that there were 6 super perfect treasures. It is worthy of being the top force in the ruins of eternity, and its foundation is powerful. At this time, the Lord of Time introduced. These 6 super perfect treasures are Wudao Pagodas, which contain 5 types of poles: defense pole, space pole, time pole, town pole, and nothingness pole. Of course, it is better not to have a large number of poles. Although some super perfect treasures only contain the power of one type of pole, they are purer and have better comprehension effects. The second super perfect treasure is empty. Heizu, contains the pole of water and the pole of space. The third super perfect treasure is the quicksand stone statue, which contains the power of the pole of earth, the pole of gravity and the pole of time. The fourth piece of super superior the perfect treasure is the mirror of auspiciousness, which contains the extreme way of causation. The fifth super perfect treasure is the bloodline spear, which contains the extreme way of the spear. The sixth super perfect treasure is the Wujing mountain, which contains the extreme way of time, space ultimate path. You can choose one of these 6 super perfect treasures, and enter into them to practice and understand the power of ultimate path. Yi Tian pondered for a while, and there is no doubt that the 6 super perfect treasures are very powerful, and many of them contain the power of several extreme ways. The most powerful should be the Wudao Pagoda, but the Wudao Pagoda itself contains the power of 5 kinds of poles, and the power of a single pole is not necessarily stronger than the power of poles contained in other super perfect treasures. However, Yi Tian finally decided to enter the Wudao Pagoda. The main reason is that he has two duplicate bodies. These two duplicate bodies can also comprehend other extreme powers in the Wudao Pagoda. Although the comprehension effect is not very good, it is also an opportunity. Therefore, he can comprehend the power of several extreme ways at the same time, as long as he enters the door. So, Yi Tian said, Lord of Time, I want to enter the Wudao Pagoda, a super perfect treasure, to understand the power of the extreme way. Can, the Lord of Time responded. Immediately, the Lord of Time brought Yi Tian to the Wudao Pagoda body. In fact, Yi Tian has been here many times, but the power of Wudao Pagoda is introverted, and he can't understand the power of the extreme way. However, a special area has opened up inside the Wudao Pagoda, and the power of the extreme way is vented into it, allowing practitioners who enter it to comprehend the power of the 5 extreme ways. Come in, you can comprehend the years of the 3 million eternal years. Remember, seize this opportunity and strive to master a kind of extreme fur. Said the Lord of Time. Thank you, Lord of Time, CJFJ. Yi Tian immediately entered the inner area of the Wudao Pagoda. The power of the 5 extreme ways spread throughout this area, and after Yi Tian entered here, it was almost impossible for him to move. However, the power here is very gentle, not as violent as the super perfect sword of the 9 rivers void. The super perfect treasure in the 9 rivers void has not yet been successfully conceived. No one controls it. The power of the sword is very violent, but the Wudao Pagoda has a master. The power here is gentle and will not contain lethality, but it does not even if you have the strength of a half-step perfect controller, you can't stay here. Yi Tian said secretly. However, although the power here is wide, the effect of comprehension is not as good as the super perfect treasure of the 9 rivers void. In short, there are pros and cons. You can only comprehend the 3 million eternal years here, take the opportunity to comprehend it quickly. Yi Tian began to comprehend and practice here. This time, what he wants to comprehend is the extreme way of space, the extreme way of time, and the extreme way of nothingness. These 3 extreme ways are very good for fighting and improving strength. Time passed slowly, and the 3.3 billion changes of Yi Tian's way of perfect space continued to merge, from 3.3 billion changes to 21 changes, and then to a billion changes. The way of space has merged into a billion changes, which is equivalent to mastering the fur of the extreme way of space. And to achieve this step, Yi Tian only spent 600,000 years of eternal years. Although the comprehension effect here is not very good, I have already mastered the prototype of the sword's extreme way, and I am quite familiar with the power of the extreme way. The insight will also be very deep, it will not be as difficult as the first time to understand the extreme way of the sword. Yi Tian thought to himself. However, the progress of the time pole and the imaginary pole has been slow. After all, this is a comprehension from the air, and the effect is diminishing a lot. Before you know it, another million years of eternity have passed. This day, Yi Tian has already merged the changes of the way of space to less than 100 million, and has mastered the power of the prototype of the space pole, and the time pole and the void pole have also mastered the prototype. There are still more than 1 million eternal years left, and I can probably integrate the prototype of the space pole to the level of millions of changes. At the same time, I will condense the prototype of the time pole and the prototype of the void pole. 1. Yi Tian secretly said, and in the years that followed, he worked hard for this goal. Finally, before the end of the 3 million eternity years, Yi Tian mastered the power of the prototype of the time pole and the prototype of the void, and the prototype of the space pole merged to the level of more than 6 million changes. Up to now, Yi Tian has fully mastered the power of the 4 prototypes of the extreme path, and his strength can be described as skyrocketing. Chapter 1998 The Ultimate Power of the Sword and #039's Ultimate Prototype. Open black lens bracket seeking full order close black lens bracket. At the age of 3 million eternal years, Yi Tian was directly kicked out of the Wudao Pagoda, and he was not allowed to continue to comprehend. It's a pity, it would be great if you could always comprehend and practice. Yi Tian thought to himself. But this is impossible. No matter what kind of resource, even if it is a permanent resource, it cannot be used by everyone. If all the resources are used for free, and everyone can stretch their hands and eat to open their mouths, who will provide them with resources? If everyone doesn't work hard, one force will be abolished in the future. Therefore, no force will allow this to happen. If you want to obtain sufficient resources, you must have this qualification. And Yi Tian manages the human race, too. After coming out of the void of the Wudao Pagoda, the Lord of Time appeared again. Yi Tian, how is the effect? Asked the Lord of Time. Have mastered the power of the rudimentary form. Yi Tian said, the power of the rudimentary form? Are you sure? The Lord of Time was shocked. He thought that Yi Tian only mastered the fur of the extreme way, but he did not expect that Yi Tian actually mastered the power of the prototype of the extreme way. Such a speed of understanding is too fast. At this moment, Yi Tian showed the power of the prototype of the space extreme, the power of the prototype of the time and the power of the prototype of the void. The power of the three prototypes of the extreme path diffused out, and the pupil of the Lord of Time shrank. The power of the prototype of the three poles. The Lord of Time was shocked again. Yi Tian chose to expose the power of these three prototypes of the extreme path, and he also had his own plans. First of all, there is no need to hide his strength. With the strength of the Lord of Time, it is absolutely unnecessary for him to hide. Besides, the Lord of Time really wants to spy on his body, and he can't hide it. Instead, it's better to expose directly. And he exposed his talent. He will definitely be more valued by Wu Dao Pagoda in the future. Maybe a chance similar to this will fall on his head in the future. The opportunity to pick up for nothing, don't want it for nothing. Good, the Lord of Time applauded. Of course, the Lord of Time didn't say much, but his evaluation of Yi Tian was higher. For Yi Tian, that's enough. In the years that followed, Yi Tian focused on comprehending the power of the extreme swordsmanship. As for the extreme spatial, temporal, and nothingness, without the assistance of super-perfect treasures, the comprehension effect was almost stagnant. Therefore, he temporarily gave up his enlightenment. The years go by quickly. Before you know it, millions of eternity years have passed. And after such a long time, Yi Tian's sword's ultimate form has made great progress. At this moment, he has integrated the changes of the sword way to less than 10,000 kinds. At this time, the prototype of the sword's extreme way is considered to be the realm of great achievement, and it is very close to mastering the real sword's extreme way. However, after the fusion of less than 10,000 changes, it is much more difficult to continue the fusion. And relying on the power of the Tao of Dacheng sword, Yi Tian has already approached the vicinity of the super-perfect treasure, and it is difficult for the endless power of the sword to hurt him. If you can enter the inner void of this sword, the effect of enlightenment will be even better. Yi Tian thought to himself. He felt that he should be able to enter the inner void of this sword, but he might not be able to last long. It doesn't matter how long I can hold on. When I entered the 9th layer void, I couldn't hold on for long. I didn't rely on countless copies of my body to finally understand the fur of the sword's extreme way, so I can stay here forever. Therefore, Yi Tian finally continued to do so. The power of the rudimentary form of the sword's extreme path wrapped Yi Tian's power to forcibly tear the sword's extreme path, and stepped into the inner void of the sword. Since this sword has not yet been fully conceived, the power of the inner void is extremely violent. In an instant, Yi Tian was torn apart by the power of the extreme sword, but at least he could persevere. And here, Yi Tian realized the most original power of the sword's extreme way. This is the real swordsmanship, Yi Tian said excitedly. But soon, his duplicate body shattered. But it doesn't matter, he has already copied another copy body. This copy body is broken, it doesn't affect anything, just spend some resources and condense another copy body. In this way, Yi Tian, in the following years, entered the inner void of the sword again and again, realized the true origin of the sword's extreme way, and his understanding of the sword's extreme way reached an unbelievable level, and the speed of progress was extremely fast. It didn't take too long for Yi Tian to fuse the changes in Kendo to the level of 5,000. Ask for flowers. Fusion of 4,000 species. Fusion of 3,000 kinds. Fusion of 2,000 species. Fusion of 1,000 kinds. About 10,000 years of age, Yi Tian's first fusion has reached the level of only 99 changes. At this time, the rudiment of the sword's extreme path has almost reached its peak, and its strength has reached an incomparably terrifying level. And Yi Tian can also stay in the inner void of this sword all the time, and will not be torn apart by the power of the sword's extreme way. It is really difficult to understand the power of the extreme way. If I accidentally discover this super-perfect treasure that is being bred, and the ability to copy talent, I can't take the power of the sword's extreme way so quickly. Enlightenment to this extent. 1 inch. 0. Yi Tian muttered. His current strength is much stronger than before. If he fully exerts the power of the rudimentary form of the sword, a single sword will be enough to kill the nameless Kun in seconds. That is to say, even the weaker middle-level perfect controller can't bear the might of his sword. With his current strength, he is not invincible among the middle-level perfect controllers, but it is almost the same. However, even so, it would take a long time for him to comprehend the true swordsmanship. After all, it would be too difficult to master a real sword. This day, Yi Tian ushered in another breakthrough, that is, he broke the 8th chain of extreme creation, and almost all of them were the power of the rudimentary form of the sword. 8 chains of creation, after all, this time he hardly used much matter of creation. After the 8th chain was broken, Yi Tian's strength increased by a small amount. The magnitude was not large, but it was also a kind of improvement. Continue to practice hard, and strive to completely master the extreme way of the sword before becoming the perfect controller. Yi Tian muttered. Another period of time passed. The high-level Wudao Pagoda informed Yi Tian that the No. 3 Pagoda Master of Wudao Pagoda was out of the customs and was about to start a sermon, and except for those who were in perfect control who were qualified to listen, the creation of the extreme state was half a step. The perfect master is also qualified to listen to the preaching of the Tower Master. It turned out to be this one who went out. Yi Tian was shocked. This is a good thing, he will definitely go to listen to this preaching corpse. Chapter 1999 The Extreme Way of the Sword, Master It. Open black lens bracket seeking full order close black lens bracket. Wudao Pagoda, a piece of time and space. A half-step perfect controller of the extreme creation has come here, and there are many perfect controllers. Even if some of the main bodies are not there, they will send an avatar here. After all, this time it was the master of the 3rd tower, that is, the master of Kanggu of the Wudao Tower, preaching. According to Yi Tian's understanding, the Lord of Time, the Lord of the 6th Tower, is far inferior to the Lord of Kanggu. Although there are 13 Tower Masters in the entire Wudao Pagoda, except for the 1st Tower Master, the 2nd Tower Master and the 3rd Tower Master, the other Tower Masters can only be regarded as the Deputy Tower Masters, and their status and strength are far inferior to the first 3. Tower Owner. These 3 Tower Masters are the real people in power of Wudao Tower, but the 3 Tower Masters usually do not appear, and they do not manage much. They are all managed by the Master of Time. Yi Tian only knew that the Lord of Time and the others were super perfect controllers, and the Kanggu Lord, 017, must have surpassed the super perfect controllers. Yi Tian didn't know what level they belonged to. Soon, all the people who were supposed to come came, sitting cross-legged in the void one by one. An extremely terrifying figure. The person who came was a young man with white hair, but the aura on his body overwhelmed everyone. He was the Lord of Kanggu. I have seen the Lord of Kanggu. Numerous perfect controllers and half-step perfect controllers of creating extreme realms respectfully said. Kanggu Zhigu nodded slightly, and immediately began to preach. At the moment when the Lord of Kanggu preached, the Tao he spoke actually showed the power of the extreme way, and all kinds of extreme power spread throughout the void. And with the sermon of the Lord of Kanggu, the perfect controller and creator the half-step perfect controller of the extreme realm is easier to understand the power of the extreme way. The Lord of Kanggu actually showed the power of the extreme way through preaching. What kind of strength is this? And his understanding of the extreme way has reached an unimaginable level. Yi Tian said in shock. Not only Yi Tian was shocked, but many perfect controllers and half-step perfect controllers in the realm of creation were also shocked. They were also the first time they listened to the sermon of the Lord of Kanggu. Listening to the Lord of Kanggu preaching this time is really a chance. Yi Tian secretly said. Therefore, he began to listen carefully to the sermons of the Lord of Kanggu, absorb the essence of the other party's sermons, and slowly understand, thus turning them into his own. This sermon, the Lord of Kanggu has been preaching for a long time, involving all kinds of Taoism and all aspects. At the beginning, the content of the sermon of the Lord of Kanggu was relatively simple, but it soon became more and more profound, and many perfect controllers and perfect controllers of the half-step creation realm could not understand. It can be said that if you don't have a high enough understanding of the power of the extreme way, you don't understand it at all, just like listening to a scripture without words. But Yi Tian could barely understand. Listening to the sermon of the Lord of Kanggu, Yi Tian has a new understanding of the use of the power of the rudimentary rudiment, and it will benefit him a lot in the future. Suddenly, the Lord of Kanggu said again, many of you have not completely mastered the power of the extreme way, not even the fur of the extreme way. Of course, if you do not condense a super-perfect ancestor, there is no hope of super-perfect control. The realm of the master is not a problem, but if you have the potential to become a super-perfect controller, you must master the power of the pole. Only by thoroughly mastering a pole can you enter the realm of the super-perfect controller. This is the lowest require. To become a super-perfect controller, you must completely master a pole. Yi Tian understood. However, he doesn't need to worry anymore. After all, he is not too far away from completely mastering the extreme way of the sword, and he will definitely be able to master the extreme way of the sword 100% in the future. Next, many perfect controllers asked the Lord of Kangoo for advice on cultivation, and even if others did not ask for advice, they could learn more about the secrets of cultivation from the question and answer. Suddenly, a half-step perfect controller of the extreme creation realm asked curiously, Lord of Kangoo, what is the realm above the super perfect controller? It seems that there is no record in the various books of the Wu Dao Pagoda. 1 inch. That realm is too far away. The Lord of Kangoo said with a smile. However, since you asked, I will tell you, the super perfect controller is the perfect controller of the virtual realm. As for how to become the perfect controller of the virtual realm, that's not what you should know now. Thank you, Lord of Kangoo, for your guidance. The half-step perfect controller of the creation of the extreme state responded. Void. Everyone else heard it, and they were curious about the virtual realm. But I can also know that it is too difficult to become the perfect controller of the virtual realm. After all, for many half-step perfect controllers of the extreme realm, becoming a super perfect controller is their permanent ultimate goal. Illusory realm, I will definitely reach it. Yi Tian secretly said. After another period of time, the sermon of the Lord of Kangoo officially ended. The void of the 9 rivers, the inner void of the super perfect sword body. Yi Tian is still here to comprehend and practice, and at this moment, his comprehension effect has been greatly improved. This is due to the preaching of the Lord of Kangoo. You can't blindly comprehend the power of the extreme way, you need to master a special way. Yi Tian remembered this. However, he changed his strategy. When comprehending the extreme way of the sword, he practiced the use of the prototype of the extreme way of the sword while comprehending the enlightenment, and cooperated with the comprehension of the extreme way of the sword. In addition, create various secret techniques that can assist in comprehending the extreme way of the sword, thereby increasing the effect of comprehension. And just like that, another 10 million eternity years passed. Only 9 variations left, Yi Tian said excitedly. If the 9 changes are combined into one, he will completely master the sword's extreme way. At that time, his strength will be greatly improved, and he will be at the level of invincible combat power among the medium perfect controllers. Of course, in the half-step perfect controller of the creation of the extreme state, he will also be in the invincible level. However, it is not an easy thing to merge the 9 changes into one, and it will become more and more difficult to merge in the later stage, and it needs to be thoroughly understood. 8 variations, 7 variations, 6 variations, 5 variations, 5.9. Yi Tian is also extremely excited as he is getting closer and closer to completely mastering the sword's extreme way. After all, many high-level perfect controllers can't master a pole in their lifetime, and he hasn't become a perfect controller yet. He is only half-step perfect controller, and he is about to master a pole. How can he not be excited? Woolen cloth. More than 15.6 million eternity years have passed, and Yi Tian is finally about to completely merge the swordsmanship into a change, mastering the extreme swordsmanship. This day, the remaining 2 changes of kendo are completely integrated, and the extreme sword is condensed. This moment, Yi Tian's body has undergone tremendous changes, and the power of the sword's extreme way has madly transformed Yi Tian's body of control. And his strength is also increasing at an incredible speed. Chapter 2000 The Body of the Extreme Way, the Perfect Controller of the Extreme State. Open black lens bracket seeking full. After a long time, Yi Tian's transformation ended completely. And at this time, Yi Tian discovered that his half-step perfect control body actually contained the power of the extreme way. The power of the sword's extreme way and the half-step perfect control body were almost perfectly integrated, thus making the half-step perfect. The body of control has reached an incredible level. Extreme body. Yi Tian was enlightened. At this moment, his half-step perfect control body seems to have reached a state that has never been recorded. Of course, it's just that there are no records in the general books, but the Lord of Time and the others must know. After the body in control became the body of the extreme way, Yi Tian's strength can be said to skyrocket, and he even doubted whether he could fight against the weaker high-level perfect controller. Inexplicably reached the body of the extreme way, Yi Tian is very confused, and he is a little confused about his future practice. He doesn't know how to practice. If he goes the wrong way, wouldn't he regret it? It seems that I have to ask the Lord of Time. Yi Tian decided. Although he wanted to ask the Lord of Kangoo more, 29 but unfortunately he had no way to contact the Lord of Kangoo, nor could he see the Lord of Kangoo, unless it was the Lord of Kangoo who met him. Subsequently, Yi Tian went to the 6th tower to visit the Lord of Time and informed the Lord of Time in advance. Soon, the Lord of Time met Yi Tian and let Yi Tian enter the 6th tower. Have seen the Lord of Time, Yi Tian said respectfully. When the Lord of Time saw Yi Tian, his face was slightly surprised. You are the body of the extreme way. The Lord of Time. Yes, Yi Tian nodded. I don't know much about the body of the extreme way, so I came to ask the Lord of Time. The Lord of Time smiled bitterly. I don't know much about the body of the extreme way, but you can ask the Lord of Kangoo. 1. Ask the Lord of Kangoo. Yi Tian said helplessly. I can't contact the Lord of Kangoo. Ha ha ha, don't worry, I will tell the Lord of Kangoo right away that you have condensed the body of the extreme way in the half-step perfect controller realm of creating the extreme realm, and the Lord of Kangoo will definitely meet you. The Lord of Time said. Thank you Lord of Time. Yi Tian thanked. Then, the Lord of Time contacted the Lord of Kangoo. Soon, a big hand came in and brought Yi Tian directly to a void area. Here, Yi Tian met the Lord of Kangoo. The Lord of Kangoo glanced at Yi Tian, as if he had seen through Yi Tian. The body of the extreme way of the sword, you are very good. You can master the body of the extreme way in the realm of creating a perfect controller in half a step, but it is not enough. It is not the most perfect controller to achieve the body of the extreme way of the sword. Good choice, the Lord of Kangoo said lightly. Also ask the Lord of Kangoo to give pointers. Yi Tian said respectfully. At this time, the Lord of Kangoo said, above the super perfect controller are the perfect controller of the virtual realm, the perfect controller of the real realm, and the perfect controller of the extreme realm. And those who want the perfect controller of the extreme realm must be in the creation of the extreme realm. The realm of the half-step perfect controller controls the body of the extreme way, but the body of the extreme way is also divided into strengths and weaknesses. If you are in the realm of creating the half-step perfect controller of the extreme realm and break through with the body of the extreme way of the sword, then from now on, your extreme body will become stronger. The body of the Tao can only be the extreme way of the sword. If you want to change it, it is difficult to do it. The best body of the extreme way is naturally the one that fits your own way, and the second is the extreme way of time and space. Tao is the most powerful pole, and again it is the body of poles with various single attributes. I understand. Yi Tian understood. The most suitable body for him is the body of the endless pole, but it is too difficult to master the endless pole. Or, he can choose the time and space pole, which is also hopeful. Of course, if you really can't do it, then you can break through with the body of the sword, and there is still hope to become the perfect controller of the extreme realm in the future, but it can't be called invincible at this level. The Lord of Kangoo said again, you have only become a half-step perfect controller of the creation of the extreme realm. You can try to master the extreme way of time and space, or to master the power of the extreme way of your own way. If you really can't understand it, then it is not too late to break through with the pole of the sword. In addition, the power of the pole of the sword can help you break the chain of creation of the body in control. The number of chains of creation that can be broken by a half-step perfect controller of the general state of creation is 12 roots, and the number of extreme chains in the body of the extreme way is 36. 36 pole chains. Yi Tian was surprised. He realized that the potential limit of the body of the extreme way is far beyond the ordinary body of half-step perfect control of the extreme creation state. If the 36 extreme creation chains are broken, the strength will be greatly improved. I have to say, the potential of the body of the extreme way is terrible. With the guidance of the Lord of Kangoo, Yi Tian's future cultivation is clear. In addition, you have mastered the power of the extreme way, and your body will stay in the Wu Dao Pagoda. I can ensure that no one in the eternal ruins will be able to obliterate you. Otherwise, the news that you have mastered the extreme way will be exposed, and some old people will be exposed. The immortal guy might really be shameless enough to attack you. The Lord of Kangoo said. Thank you, Lord of Kangoo. Yi Tian said gratefully. And he also roughly guessed the strength of the Lord of Kangoo in his heart. Not the perfect controller of the virtual realm, nor the perfect controller of the real realm, but the perfect controller of the extreme realm, otherwise the Lord of Kangoo would not have such confidence. At last, the Lord of Kangoo said, Yi Tian, your talent is very monstrous. If you don't fall in the future, there is a certain hope that you will reach the perfect controller of the extreme realm. I will not be stingy, I will give you a chance this time. I saw that the Lord of Kangoo took out a token and handed it to Yi Tian. This is the ancestral order of time and space. With him, he can enter a place called the ancestral realm of time and space. You must know that many perfect controllers want to enter the ancestral realm of time and space, but they have no chance. The ancestral realm of time and space is a special area. Even the perfect controller of the extreme realm cannot interfere in the ancestral realm of time and space, where one can comprehend the power of time and space and even the power of other extreme paths, as well as other opportunities. Of course, all benefits need to be fought for by themselves. The ancestral realm of time and space can only stay for 100 million eternity years, and if it exceeds this time, it will be rejected. The Lord of Kangoo said. Yi Tian took over the ancestral order of time and space and thanked the Lord of Kangoo again. Then, Yi Tian left here. Yi Tian, grow up well, I hope that the tower will give birth to a perfect controller. The Lord of Kangoo murmured. Immediately, he continued to practice. Even at his level, he still has to practice. After all, everyone wants to climb to a higher level. After returning, Yi Tian began to refine the ancestral order of time and space. After refining, he immediately activated the ancestral order of time and space.